Konoha, the birth of the ninja clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Returning to the village from the field. Pig? It really is. The ninjas at the number 2 post immediately blushed with shame. However, when they walked to the unidentified object under the leadership of Yaoshin, they found that it was indeed a pig. At this time, the black pig was sleeping soundly, whistling comfortably. Fortunately, Yaoshin breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, he took advantage of the inattention of these ninjas and secretly lifted the seal on the pig. Otherwise it would be his turn to be embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Lord Yaoshin. We were too cowardly and caused this misunderstanding. Please punish us." The person in charge of the number 2 post came to Yaoshin with a face full of self-blame to apologize. "No. Not only are you not at fault, we need to be cautious now, otherwise the enemy will really come and no one will know. This pig will be given to your post as a reward." Yaoshin waved his hand generously, with praise in his tone. This moved everyone at the number 2 post to tears. Lord Yaoshin is so great. Yaoshin refused the requests of the people at the number 2 outpost to stay, and left immediately after the matter was resolved. He was too embarrassed to face their grateful expressions. After confirming that the electromagnetic body flash technique was successful, Yaoshin began to prepare to return to the village. First, in order to ensure that the water country would not take advantage of the situation, Yaoshin left behind a shadow clone of himself. Because Yaoshin had to use electromagnetic escape to travel, the shadow clone did not have much chakra, but as long as it was not attacked, it could last for a few days. Then he secretly instructed his Ashi to disperse the shadow clone if the Miss Ninja launched an attack during this period. Yaoshin estimated that, when he knew the situation, it would take more than half an hour to rush here from the village using electromagnetic escape. After arranging everything, Yaoshin set off the next day. Because it was the first time to use electromagnetic body flash, Yaoshin was cautious every time and only dared to move 5 or 6 kilometers at a time. Where he stayed for a short time, miniature pyramids were buried underground. As Yaoshin became more and more proficient in electromagnetic body flash, his speed also increased a lot. 3 hours later, Yaoshin saw the gate of Konoha. Since it was a wartime, the gate was much quieter. However, Yaoshin felt more at ease when he looked at the majestic Hokage rock standing in front of the gate. "I'm indeed an emotional person. After solving the hidden dangers of Konoha, the position of Hokage will be decided by Tsunade and the others," Yaoshin thought to himself. Because of the need to keep it secret, Yaoshin did not enter the village through the gate. He had discovered several back doors specially left in the barrier by his usual perception. Usually, Danzo and his route entered and exited through these back doors. It really seems like a lifetime ago. Yaoshin was dressed like a vendor at this time. Looking at the busy villagers, which was completely different from the tense atmosphere on the front line, he couldn't help but feel emotional. He also made up his mind to protect this piece of pure land for his family. After all, there is no place as safe as Konoha in the ninja world. Yaoshin entered his yard quietly and sensed that Kiko was taking care of 4 newborn babies with the nanny, and several older ones were also training seriously in the training ground. A warm smile appeared on Yaoshin's face. Who are you? What are you doing here?" Suddenly, Minato's voice came from behind him. He was holding a kunai in his right hand and staring at Yaoshin with a vigilant face. "Uncle, what's the matter with you coming to my house?" Anzi, who was following Minato, was born with a keen sense of perception. Not only did she not feel any hostility from Yaoshin, but Yaoshin's body was full of a smell that made her rely on him. So she was not afraid of the stranger who suddenly appeared in her home, but boldly stepped forward to ask. Looking at the cute Anzi, Yaoshin couldn't help but go up and hugged her. "Let go of Anzi." Minato saw the stranger suddenly hugging Anzi and shouted hurriedly. If he hadn't been worried about Anzi's safety, he would have rushed up with a kunai and fought with Yaoshin. At this time, Zizi, who heard the noise, came out. Seeing her daughter being held in the arms of a stranger, she was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, she couldn't help but shed tears. Others couldn't recognize Yaoshin, but Zizi, who had been with him day and night for more than 10 years, recognized her husband at a glance. She covered her mouth in disbelief, and when she saw Yushin nodded gently, Kiko shed tears of excitement. Yushin put down Enzi and just looked at his wife stupidly, grinning foolishly. She knew that this was not the time to expose herself. When she was about your husband's whereabouts, she said to Enzi and Minato, "You go somewhere else to play first. This uncle is dad's friend, not a bad person." Minato stared at Yushin suspiciously. Since he is the master's friend, why haven't I seen him before? But Kiko had already said so, and he didn't ask more, so he could only hold Enzi's hand and leave here. Kiko pulled Yushin into the bedroom. "Why are you back?" Kiko asked as soon as she sat down. "I missed you." Yushin had returned to her original appearance at this time, and answered indifferently. Zizi rolled her eyes at him. "Aren't you afraid that those people will have opinions? What if the Miss Ninja attacks when you are not here? They will definitely take advantage of the situation. Who can care about them at this time? It's okay. I'm well prepared. Nothing will happen. Just know it in your mind. How long can you stay this time? It should be a long time." Yaoshin thought about it and then added, "If nothing unexpected happens, that's good. You should take advantage of this time to spend more time with the children. They miss you very much. Don't you want to?" Yaoshin said jokingly. However, as soon as he finished this sentence, Zizi suddenly threw himself into his arms and hugged him tightly. Zizi sobbed silently in his arms. Yaoshin patted his wife's back. Okay, I'm back now, aren't I? You just gave birth to a child, and you are very emotional. It's not good for your health. I won't. You've been gone for more than half a year. Don't you know how worried I am? You don't allow me to cry?" Zizi suddenly started to act coquettishly, and Yaoshin didn't know how to respond. At this time, he could only gently put his arms around his wife's shoulders to comfort her. He knew that his wife must be very worried, since he went to the front line. So at this time, he could only let her vent her nervous emotions, until Zizi was a little tired of crying. She pushed Yushin away and said with disgust, "You are so dirty, you smell. I'll boil some water for you, you wash first. Let's go see the children in the evening." "Okay. It's not appropriate for me to appear in front of everyone at this time. Although I'm not afraid of them, this is not the time to turn against them. I understand." Zizi knew that her husband had always been very opinionated, so she didn't say much and turned around to boil hot water for him. Ask for support. Chapter 77. Slacking off. Since then, Yushin has been at home with his wife and children most of the time, except for going to the front line every few days, leaving a new shadow clone, and conditioning his Ashi, and checking his training progress. Yushin lost a lot of hair in order to name the 4 children, and finally had to put the naming aside helplessly, because he really couldn't think of any. Because of Yushin's return, the family has regained its previous cheerful atmosphere. With Yushin's continuous transformation using the light of the beads, by the end of the year, Miruta and the other 3 had already reached the level of Chunin, and Nono was only a step away from Chunin. As for Minato and Naoki, because Minato started training late, he just reached the level of Genin, and Naoki also reached the level of Chunin after Miruta and the other 3. By the way, there is also Kushina. After this girl learned from Miruta that they had been training with Yushin, she also timidly followed Naoki. At first, Yushin didn't find anything wrong, but after a while, Yushin found that there was something wrong with the way Kushina looked at her eldest son. "No, although the children in the ninja world are more mature, you are still a budding child. Why do you have so many thoughts?" Yushin was depressed. If Kushina became his daughter-in-law, then would the child of destiny be his grandson or Minato's child? Just thinking about it makes people feel overwhelmed. However, based on his understanding of the ninja world, Yushin felt that the chance of his grandson was greater. After all, Ashura's chakra will only be transferred among the descendants of the Otsutsuki clan in the future. Minato is just a commoner. Although he has outstanding qualifications, he can't create a son with Ashura's chakra out of thin air. So I'm still destined to be a hard worker? Yushin was depressed. Originally, he just wanted to quietly develop his family and protect his family. As long as he waits for the child of destiny to be born, he can retire and live a comfortable life. Who knows that the source of trouble in the future may be his grandson? No. In the original book, the reason why Ashura's chakra was reincarnated into Kushina's son was because when Madara died, the direct line of Ashura, the Senju clan, had only Tsunade, an older leftover woman. So as long as the Senju clan is not destroyed, Ashura's chakra will not be reincarnated into my grandson in the future. Before the birth of his grandson, Yushin began to worry about his grandson. Then he cast his eyes towards the nearby rope tree with ill intentions. It would have been better if he hadn't looked at it. When Yushin saw it, he almost spit out a mouthful of blood. When Yushin looked at Rope Tree was staring at his eldest daughter Nono. Your mother can't get around it, can she? Yushin wanted to go over and destroy Rope Tree. Why did she come to his vegetable garden to pick cabbages when she could pick anyone else? Now, the child of destiny is either his grandson or his grandson-in-law. There's no way to avoid it, right? Oh. Why is it so difficult to lie down? Yushin sighed in his heart. Should I try to marry Tsunade off? Yuda thought to himself. This way, the possibility of his grandson becoming the child of destiny would be much smaller. But who should I find to marry that female Tyrannosaurus? Yuda began to look for a partner for Tsunade again. But when he thought that there were still more than 10 years before Madara-sama's death, Yuda had a headache again. Forget it. I don't want to think about it anymore. At worst, I will fight to the death. Anyway, I can't escape unless I kill Black Zetsu now. Just when Yuda was still worrying about his descendants, the situation in the ninja world changed again. First of all, Hanzo didn't know what was wrong with him. He ignored the Sand Ninja and Rock Ninja and attacked the Konoha troops desperately, as if he would not give up until Konoha was driven out of the Rain Country. Although Tsunade and the other two tried their best to resist, they were still driven out of the Rain Country by the Rain Ninja led by Hanzo. They could only build a defense line at the border of the Fire Country and ask for help from the third generation. After receiving the letters of help from his 3 disciples, the third generation went through all the people he could think of in his mind and found that Yuta, who was in charge of guarding the Land of Water, was the most suitable. On the one hand, Yuta had defeated Hanzo before and had a psychological advantage in fighting Hanzo and could also greatly improve the morale of the ninjas there. On the other hand, he really couldn't send anyone. So after some consideration, the third generation decided to send Yuta to the Land of Rain to deal with Hanzo. Tsunade went to the Land of Wind to help Hatake Tsukumo. After all, the poison of that old woman Chihaya was no joke. Jiraiya and Orochimaru were transferred to the Land of Water. It seems that the title of 3 ninjas will never appear again. Yuta's shadow clone looked at the order in his hand and thought involuntarily. Then, he handed the order to Hisashi for safekeeping. Then he released the shadow clone with a bang. Yuta, who was playing with the 4 little guys at home, was suddenly stunned. After Zizzy found out, she didn't disturb him, guessing that there might be a problem on the front line. After receiving the memory of the shadow clone, Yuda understood the reason. He sighed. You really don't let me rest. Kiko asked in confusion. What's wrong? What happened? Yuda told Kiko about the situation in the Land of Rain. After listening, Kiko urged him to leave quickly. He was very satisfied to be able to stay at home with her and the children for half a year under the tense situation of World War II. So, the next day, Yuda appeared in the headquarters of the Water Country's defense line. Seeing Hisashi handing over the order of the 3rd generation, Yuda began to prepare to hand over the defense line. 3 days later, Jiraiya and Orochimaru arrived here. Led by Yuda, they inspected the entire defense line. After reading it, Jiraiya exclaimed, "The preparations are too thorough. The entire defense line is so tight." Orochimaru also nodded silently behind him, agreeing with Jiraiya's opinion. With such a tight defense line, unless the Water Country attacks hard, it will be difficult to sneak into the Fire Country without knowing it and launch a sneak attack on Konoha. That night, Yuta quietly handed a scroll to Orochimaru and told him to study it carefully and make the things on it as soon as possible. Orochimaru looked at Yuta's wonderful ideas on the scroll and exclaimed in admiration. Then, he put away the scroll. He said to Yuta with confidence, "No problem." As the main sponsor of his research, Yuta has given him a large amount of research funds in recent years. Orochimaru still attaches great importance to the requirements of the sponsor. After hearing his guarantee, Yuta nodded with satisfaction. After all, The money was not wasted. After the handover, Yuta set off with Hisashi. As Yuta's preparatory disciple, Hisashi has become Yuta's messenger. In order to protect his safety, Yuta also kept him by his side to teach. Because they were traveling with Hisashi, a week had passed when the two of them arrived at the land of water. Tsunade had been waiting impatiently. After seeing Yuda, he flew into a rage. "Why are you so late? Jiraiya and Orochimaru have been gone for 10 days, and I'm so bored here alone." Hisashi was a little embarrassed behind Yuda. It was because of him that Yuda was late. But before he could come out to apologize, Yuda was pulled into the big tent by Tsunade. Seeing them in a hurry, Hisashi was stunned. "Is this a blame? Or do you miss him?" Hisashi was a little confused. "Forget it. I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's clean up the residence for Lord Yuda first." So he turned around and left, and led by a ninja to Yuda's residence here, asking for support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 78 Trouble. After Yuda was pulled into the tent by Tsunade, he saw the gambling tools and food and drinks on the table. He stared at Tsunade in a daze. Tsunade felt a little embarrassed when he stared at her. "Isn't this a welcome party for you? And it's been a long time since we played. I finally waited for you to come. Why don't you play with me? As a punishment for your lateness." Yuda was amused and helpless by her, but he was indeed late and delayed Tsunade's time, so he could only sit down with her. The setting sun was still half exposed on the top of the mountain. Tsunade lost a lot of wine due to her strange luck. Tsunade was drunk at this time. Drunk Tsunade said from the bottom of her heart, "Why didn't I act earlier? Sure enough, my vision is still not as good as Kiko. Yuda, you bastard, do you know, I have liked you for a long time." Yuda didn't know how to respond at this time, so he could only listen quietly. Tsunade was drunk and said, "I don't know when I started to like you. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Anyway, you are very happy now, and I don't want to disturb your life. However, I have decided not to get married in this life. As a woman, my life is incomplete if I can't give birth to children for the person I love. So, just once is fine. Is that okay?" Looking at Tsunade's pitiful appearance, Yushin felt a little bit reluctant. He wanted to persuade her, but he didn't say much. In the end, he could only sigh and help the drunk Tsunade to the bed. After he settled Tsunade down, he was about to go out. As soon as he turned around, Yushin was suddenly hugged tightly from behind by the drunk Tsunade. Then, by some strange coincidence, the two fell on the bed. At dawn the next day, Yushin woke up and found himself lying on Tsunade's bed. He smiled bitterly. He also had some questions in his heart. Am I not taking the initiative, not refusing, and not taking responsibility? Am I a bit of a scumbag? He turned his head and looked at Tsunade beside him. From her slightly trembling eyebrows, he knew that she was awake. It's just that she is a little embarrassed to face herself. Yuta did not expose her and put on her clothes quietly, trying to sneak out of Tsunade's tent before being discovered. As soon as she went out, she saw Hisashi standing not far away, staring at her closely. His eyes seemed to see a piece of shit, but he couldn't hide the curious look he gave Yuta. Yuta didn't know how to explain to Hisashi at this time. Should she tell him directly? I was forced to do this. Will Tsunade hunt her down after hearing it? If she said that, she couldn't be called a scumbag, and a scumbag would never say that. So Yuta could only laugh awkwardly. Looking at Hisashi's contemptuous eyes, Yuta went up and gave him 2 slaps on the head. You are still young, don't you understand the adult world? Life is always full of helplessness, you will understand it later. Then, he brought Hisashi to the training ground and started a day of intense training. After hearing what Yuta said in the tent, Tsunade couldn't help but feel ashamed and angry. It's as if I raped you. I'm still a virgin, okay? You took advantage of me. That day, no one in the military camp noticed the difference between the two, and Tsunade didn't say goodbye to anyone. She went to the border of the Wind Country alone to meet up with Hatex Akumo there. When Hanzo heard that Konoha had sent Yuta to the border of the Rain Country, he was so angry that he cursed. Sarutobi, this monkey, has no martial ethics. Transferring that evil star here is embarrassing. But he couldn't do anything about Yuta's arrival. Because he knew Yuta's strength must be stronger than when he fought him, and he would only lose more miserably if he went up now. So in order to preserve his strength, Hanzo quietly transferred most of the Rain Ninja troops to the Land of Earth, preparing to give Inoki another blow. Yuta didn't intend to pay attention to Hanzo's plan. After he got here, first, he learned about the specific situation of his troops, and found that, although their morale was a little low, it was not a big problem. Then he took defense against the Rain Ninja according to the situation. Although he could defeat Hanzo, what would happen after defeating him? Wouldn't it be a bargain for the Wind Country and the Earth Country? Because for Konoha, the Rain Country is simply a chicken rib, tasteless to eat, and a pity to abandon. Because compared with the Fire Country, the environment of the Rain Country is too bad. But the abundant water resources of the Rain Country are urgently needed by the Wind Country and the Earth Country. So after Yushan found out that Hanzo had transferred most of his troops to the Earth Country, he did not launch an attack, but abandoned his troops, and strolled around the Rain Country leisurely. On the one hand, he collected intelligence, and on the other hand, he saw if he could pick up some white zetsu. After all, Orochimaru's biological experiments also needed materials. The Rain Country, which is shrouded in rain all year round, is called the Weeping Country. Here, it rains at least 300 days a year, so the people here live a very hard life. Although there are large tracts of land, food cannot be grown due to the climate. Looking at the sallow and skinny residents of the Land of Rain, Yushin suddenly felt how lucky he was to live in the Land of Fire, and was more determined to protect Konoha. Hanzo had long known that Yushin had entered the Land of Rain, but he could do nothing about it. As long as Yushin did not attack the Rain Ninja, Hanzo could only turn a blind eye to his behavior in the Land of Rain and treat him as if he did not exist. But this was just convenient for Yushin. That day, in a remote town in the Land of Rain, Yushin suddenly saw two strands of bright red hair. From a distance, it looked like an newlywed couple, but the back of the husband seemed familiar to Yushin. Suddenly, Akano's carefree image appeared in his mind. Could it be? Yushin's heart suddenly became nervous. After all, Akano was his former partner, and Yushin was still very sorry for his sacrifice. At this time, it was suddenly discovered that Akano did not seem to be dead. But why didn't he go back to Konoha? Yushin decided to go up and find out in person. But he didn't notice that when he quietly followed the newlyweds, a bunch of strange white faces suddenly appeared on the ground not far behind him. Oh my, we've been discovered. Should we go back and report to Master Madara? As he said that, the faces suddenly dived into the ground and sneaked towards the hiding place. No, no, the parents of the eye container have been discovered. White Zetsu shouted anxiously when he saw Master Madara sitting on the throne. Who discovered them? Isn't it okay to deal with the person who discovered them? Master Madara said indifferently, as if asking White Zetsu to strangle an ant. But Master Ban, the one who discovered them, was Konoha's Silver Fox Yuta, the person who once captured Hanzo alive and defeated the third Raikage. He is a tough opponent. I may not be able to handle it. White Zetsu was a little scared. Oh. After hearing that it was Yuta, Madara's face finally moved. I haven't stretched my muscles for a long time. This time, let me go meet that little guy. Let's see what he is capable of. He is actually called the best ninja in the contemporary world. Oh, don't. Before White Zetsu could stop him, Madara disappeared into the cave. For Yuta, big trouble is coming. Please forgive me for controlling the comments these 2 days. Also recommend a book. Chapter 79, Akano's current situation. Yushin didn't know the crisis was coming at this time. He saw the red-haired couple at this time. He was still planning to continue shopping, so he immediately found a tavern to go in. After ordering some food, he opened his senses. Because of Yushin's special perception, the couple's appearance appeared clearly in his mind. Who else could that man be if not Akano? He is still alive. After hearing the news of his sacrifice, Wang Zizi was sad for a long time. Yushin was very surprised, but thinking that Akano was alive, but did not return to Konoha, Yushin already had some guesses about the reason. Although he had never seen such bloody things in his previous life, he had heard a lot of them. Maybe it's because of her. Yushin looked at the young woman with a happy smile beside Akano and thought to himself. But what is the specific situation? He still has to go to Akano in person to ask to know. When the sun was about to set, the Akano couple walked out of the market, and it seemed that they were going to go home. Yushin followed them quietly and found that they came to a remote village. Because of Akano's murder, he discussed with Kanako and the two moved here to start a new life. The surrounding mountains seemed to isolate this village from the world. The villagers here lived very peacefully. Although the conditions were difficult, they lived leisurely and everything seemed so comfortable. Looking at the peaceful village in front of him, somehow, Yushin thought of his family. It would be great if he could live with his family in such a leisurely environment. But now he still had to figure out Akano's situation. In his perception, Akano and the woman from the Uzumaki clan stopped in front of a simple courtyard. They were talking and laughing. Akano opened the door and helped the woman walk in. Looking at their faces filled with happy smiles, Yushin really couldn't bear to disturb them. But then he thought of Black Zetsu and Uchiha Madara hiding in the dark, and his heart suddenly woke up. Will Black Zetsu have already targeted the people of the Uzumaki clan at this time? Yushin didn't know at this time that his arrival triggered a series of butterfly effects. If the woman was pregnant with Nagato, then Nagato was not only a few years older than in the original book, but also had extraordinary potential. Then, he walked towards Akano's house and lingered outside the door for a while. Finally, he gritted his teeth and knocked on the door. Pa. Who is it? The voice of Akano's wife came from inside. I'm Akano's friend. Please ask him to come and open the door. Yushin shouted into the house. Who's looking for me? Akano also heard the movement outside the door and asked Kanako. I don't know. He said he is your friend. Akano heard Kanako's answer and instantly became alert. You go back to the house and hide first. I'll go out and take a look. After Kanako returned to the house, Akano approached the door cautiously. When he was still some distance away from the door, he stopped and shouted to the outside of the house, "Who are you?" Hearing Akano's familiar voice, Yushin was instantly filled with emotion. Who would have thought that the once optimistic and cheerful little boy is now trapped in the grave of marriage and buried his past with it? I'm Yuta. Hurry up and meet me. Yuta's answer was a bit amusing. Hearing the answer from the person outside the door, Akano's heart was instantly relieved, as long as he was not an enemy. But why is Yuta here? How did he find this place? Although he was suspicious, he still stepped forward to open the door, and Yuta's familiar face appeared in front of him. Looking at his old friend, Akano was a little embarrassed, not knowing how to greet him. After all, he chose to escape and let everyone down. Akano stepped aside to open the door and invited Yuta in. Following Akano into their room, I saw Kanako staring at him nervously and then looked at Akano and hesitated to speak. Akano knew what Kanako was thinking and gave her a reassuring smile. This is my childhood friend, not a bad person. Don't worry, it's okay. After hearing Akano's introduction, Kanako's heart was also relieved. She smiled embarrassedly at Yuta and stood up to help them pour water. But then she thought, Akano introduced this as his friend, so isn't he a ninja from Konoha? Since marrying Kanako, Akano has confessed his identity to Kanako. Although Akano is not from the Whirlpool country, Kanako was very touched that Akano could give up everything he had and stay for her. She did not care about his previous concealment. Therefore, it was not difficult for her to guess Yuta's identity at this time. After Kanako left, Yuta sat down on the chair and looked at Akano with some amusement. Tell me, what's going on? Akano saw that Yuta was really not sent by Konoha to find him, and he was completely relaxed. He raised his eyebrows and shrugged indifferently. You saw what happened. It was for Kanako, the woman just now, who is now my wife. Is it worth it? Worth it? Akano knew what Yushin was asking, but he looked affectionate. She is the best girl I have ever met. I find that I can't leave her. What's more, she is pregnant with my child. Since you have made a decision, then I can't say anything more. But you have to be careful. There are still many hidden forces in the dark of the ninja world. They will not let you who have the Uzumaki bloodline go. Out of friendship, Yushin still reminded him. Oh. Do you know something? Akano's expression became serious. Facing Akano's question, Yushin didn't know how to answer. After all, in people's eyes, Uchiha Madara is dead, and Black Zetsu has never shown up in front of people. So he simply said, don't worry about these, you also know my perception ability. I found that there is a special chakra around you, as if someone is always watching you. Hearing Yushin say this, Akano also became serious. He asked with a worried look on his face, even you don't know where they come from? Yuta shook his head gently, no. That person has a strong ability to hide, and is very fast. When I found you, I carefully sensed your surroundings, in order to confirm your identity, and then I found some abnormalities. Akano fell silent after hearing Yuta's answer. Faced with the unknown situation, he was at a loss and completely helpless. Yuta couldn't tell him too much. After all, the source of the information was difficult to explain. At this time, Kanako walked in from outside with a kettle, and saw that the atmosphere in the room was a little dull. She asked Akano with some concern, what's wrong with you? Akano looked up, and looked at Kanako with a bulging belly, not knowing whether he should tell her the situation. After all, it was Kanako who was unwilling to go to Konoha in the first place. What would happen, even if he told her? It would only add to her troubles. Asking for support. Chapter 80 for the children. Kanako put down the kettle, and looked at Akano, who was hesitant to speak, a little angrily. What? Is there anything else you are hiding from me? No. No. Akano waved his hands hurriedly and denied it. Yuta saw that Akano didn't want to tell Kanako. Fortunately, he spoke directly, and repeated to Kanako what he had just said to Akano. He couldn't bear to see his former friend die here in vain. After listening to Yuta's story, Kanako looked around nervously. Is that person still there now? At this time, Akano also looked at Yuta nervously. After all, no matter who is being monitored all the time, he will feel uneasy. Wait, let me see. Yuta closed his eyes, and sensed with chakra. Suddenly, 1 kilometer away from Akano's house, Yuta sensed a weak chakra reaction. Yuta suddenly opened his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up a little. I finally found it. Swoosh. Yuta's figure suddenly disappeared. Akano and Kanako also looked at each other. How could they not know that Yushin had found the person who was monitoring them? Sure enough, after a while, Yushin came in carrying a white humanoid monster. What the hell is this thing? Akano looked at the completely unconscious white Zetsu, and asked in disbelief. In fact, he did this to hide his panic. Someone was really monitoring them. Kanako also widened her eyes, and covered her mouth, obviously frightened by the appearance of white Zetsu. Yes. This is the thing that monitors you. Yushin picked up white Zetsu, and showed it to them. Then, Yushin turned his head, and looked at Akano. What are you going to do now? Akano didn't know what to do. Of course, he wanted to return to Konoha. But now he is already a sacrificed person on Konoha's list, and he will definitely be questioned by the village when he returns. If he really recovered from his injuries, it would be fine, but his behavior is no different from that of a traitor. He was confused for a while, but he absolutely couldn't live here. Kanako's eyes were firm at this time. Go to Konoha. There is no better choice than going to Konoha now. Ah. He looked at Kanako in disbelief. Didn't you want to go before? But he didn't object. For Kanako and the child, he was willing to go back and accept punishment. Kanako looked around with some nostalgia, and then said in a firm tone, before, it was because I had no worries. I lived just to leave a way out for the Uzumaki clan. But now I have you and the child. I can't watch you being plotted against. After all, there are still many people from the Uzumaki clan in Konoha. I believe that after going there, everyone will be able to take care of each other, right? From this point of view, going to Konoha seems to be not bad. Hey. Akano hesitated at this time. After all, he didn't know if his return would have any impact on Kanako and the child in her belly. So, he looked up at Yuta with begging eyes, hoping that he could give him an idea. Yuta lowered his head and thought for a while. Let's go to the front camp first, and then Akano will stay at the front. Then, he looked at Akano, and reminded him again, but be careful to conceal your identity. You can't expose it for the time being. Then Yuta looked at Akano again. I will send Kanako back to Konoha later. Just claim that she is a member of the Uzumaki clan who I met occasionally outside. Let's settle Kanako down first. In fact, Yuda didn't want the two of them to stay here. After all, Yuda has guessed that the child in Kanako's belly is likely to be the future Nagato. Then he can't watch Kanako and Akano being plotted against by Black Zetsu and Madara. Okay, let's do as you say. Kanako didn't care to think too much at this time. In her opinion, this is the best choice at present. After seeing Kanako agree, Akano also nodded, which was quite like a wife singing and the husband following. Since they have already discussed it, they will not delay any longer. Akano hurriedly packed up the necessary items and prepared to set off. Seeing Akano carrying large and small bags of things on his back, Yuta casually threw a storage scroll over. Akano took the scroll and nodded to Yuta. It was useless to say more words of thanks at this time, and he could only keep this kindness in his heart. Seeing that Akano had finished packing, the three of them quietly left the small mountain village when it was just getting dark and there was no one outside. Along the way, in order to take care of Kanako, the three of them traveled very slowly. Because Kanako was not a ninja and was pregnant, she couldn't speed up at all. At dawn the next day, they had only walked about 30 kilometers. At this time, Akano was taking care of Kanako to rest, while Yuta was preparing breakfast for the three of them. After all, the nutrition of pregnant women needs to be guaranteed. Just as the three of them were hurrying on their way, Uchiha Madara vented his anger at Beisetsu outside the village where Akano lived before. Waste. You can't even do this. Find their whereabouts as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will have no value to stay. Yes, Lord Madara. Beisetsu was also a little puzzled at this time. He didn't know why his clone suddenly lost contact. After all, he couldn't think that there was still someone in this world who could sense him. So he didn't doubt that Yushin had caught his clone. Did that guy go to experience the feeling of pooping? Damn. Such a good thing. It turned out that one person enjoyed it alone. Forget it. Now let's find the parents of the container first. Otherwise Lord Madara will be angry. Beisetsu mobilized a large number of clones. Searched around the small mountain village where Akano lived before. Not long after, Yushin and the others were found. This time, in order to avoid another accident, Beisetsu left 3 clones here to monitor Yushin and the others. And he went to report to Uchiha Madara in person. Very good. I can finally stretch my muscles. After listening to Beisetsu's report, Uchiha Madara was very excited. Ever since he fought with Hashirama, he hadn't met an opponent that interested him. After finding out the direction of Yuda and the others, Uchiha Madara rushed there. The surrounding air seemed to be trembling with Uchiha Madara's high morale. Really leisurely, Uchiha Madara stood on a tree not far from Yuda and the others, looking at the curling smoke rising from there with his arms folded across his chest, and said with disdain, in his opinion, for strong men like them, excessive pursuit of food and drink is no different from wasting life. However, he disdained to launch a sneak attack and just waited there quietly, guessing that Yuda and the others had finished their meal, in order to prevent passing by Yuda again. He did not conserve his strength, and rushed to the place where Yuda and the others rested at full speed. It will be on sale on Monday. Thank you for your continued reading, and I hope you will continue to support me. I also recommend my friend's book. Chapter 81. I caught a big fish, but I didn't expect it to be so big. When Uchiha Madara entered Yushin's perception range, although he didn't know who was chasing him, he knew that a big fish had come. From the surging chakra and speed of the person, Yushin was not sure, but he had a guess about the identity of the person. When he saw the person stop not far from him, he was more certain of his guess. He is still as arrogant as ever. Yushin sighed in his heart. After they finished their meal, Yushin waved to Akano and whispered in his ear, "Take Kanako away quickly, the farther the better." Seeing Akano's still puzzled eyes, he still stood there without moving. Yushin urged, "There is no time to explain. The person who is monitoring you is here. He is a difficult guy." Hearing Yushin's anxious tone, Akano didn't say anything, picked up Kanako horizontally, and rushed to the distance quickly, and disappeared after a moment. Hope they can escape. Yushin held the hilt of the knife, standing proudly in the drizzling rain. His silver white hair was soaked by the rain, and fell down to cover his forehead, but it still couldn't block his sharp eyes. Swoosh! An old man wearing ancient armor from the Warring States period appeared in front of Yushin. He had a non-mainstream crew cut, and his hair was half white and half black. but he still stood there proudly, like a spear breaking through the air, as if he was about to break through the dark clouds in the sky. Yushin's body was tense and his heart was nervous. Uchiha Madara, who was standing on the tree, looked at Yushin with interest, as if he was admiring a new toy. He looked at Yushin's nervous look, and was a little disappointed. "Kid, are you Yushin, the silver fox of Konoha, who is known as the top master in the contemporary ninja world?" Then he crossed his arms and said proudly, "You don't look that good. It's far inferior to Hashirama." Yushin stared at Uchiha Madara not far away with a grim look. The former battlefield rose has actually grown old, and is on the decline. He said tit for tat. Uchiha Madara was stunned for a moment after hearing Yushin's words. Then he raised his head and laughed. "Kid, you are so brave. I admire you a little now." Yushin also relaxed his tense body at this time, because he knew, if Madara-sama started talking about sex, it would not end for a while. Instead of tensing up and being on guard all the time, it is better to relax and save some energy. Yuta shrugged his shoulders. "I can't help it. Who told you to target my friend? So I can only overestimate my own ability and take action presumptuously." "Oh, it seems that you know a lot. You didn't seem surprised at all when you saw me just now." Madara sat down on the branch, as if he was not in a hurry to fight with Yuta, like a cat teasing a mouse. "Why are you surprised? It's surprising that the famous Uchiha Madara died in the hands of the first generation." At this time, a black figure appeared at Uchiha Madara's feet. It was Black Zetsu. "Why are you here?" Uchiha Madara was obviously a little dissatisfied with Black Zetsu's interruption of his interest. "Lord Madara, you'd better be careful. This Yuta is not simple." As the strongest sixth in the ninja world, Black Zetsu's perception ability is not the strongest, but it is also at the top level. He can clearly feel the violent power in Yuta's body, which is no less than the feeling he had when he faced Hashirama's would release. However, would release gave him a feeling of hiding and not releasing, vast as the sea, and overwhelming with a panic. But the chakra in Yushin's body gave people a feeling of a lion in a violent state, as if it was going to tear everything apart. Even though he could only be sealed, he felt a little threatened by the chakra in Yushin's body. When he heard White Zetsu's report that Madara was going to find Yushin, he immediately rushed over to remind Madara to prevent him from being careless and capsizing in the gutter, disrupting his plan. When he first met Yushin, he didn't have that power in his body, but it didn't take long for Yushin to grow to the point where he could threaten Uchiha Madara. "Isn't this kid growing too fast?" Black Zetsu thought to himself. "Are you meddling too much? Remember, you are just the incarnation of my will. If you dare to meddle in my affairs again, I don't mind destroying you and creating a new incarnation." Uchiha Madara's tone was a little angry. Hearing Uchiha Madara's words, Black Zetsu was stunned for a moment. It seemed that, because of his anxiety, he almost let Uchiha Madara see through his flaws. Black Zetsu could only respectfully respond to Uchiha Madara, "I'm sorry for talking too much." Then he quickly disappeared from Madara's sight. After leaving a distance, he secretly blamed himself. It might be that, since Uchiha Madara's Samsara awakened, he was a little too proud of himself. "Damn it, it seems that I have to be careful in the future. Be careful and careful. Before my mother is rescued, I must not be careless." Then he dived into the ground and disappeared. "Little brat. The people who are in the way have left. Now let me test whether you are worthy of the title of the first master in the ninja world." Uchiha Madara stood up suddenly and said proudly to Yuda. Yuda also held the hilt of the sword with his right hand, and his left leg retreated slightly, pretending to be ready to attack at any time. Boom. The momentum of the two collided in the air, pressing the surrounding air to become dull, and a buzzing sound of grief was emitted. "What is that?" At this time, Kanako in Akano's arms felt the dullness of the air. She raised her head and looked in the direction of Yushin behind Akano, and found that the air in the air not far away was distorted by the momentum that was rushing to the sky. Akano pressed her head back into his arms with his hands and comforted her softly. "Don't worry about Yushin. The farther we are from there, the more at ease he will be, and that is the biggest help to Yushin." Kanako gently nestled her head in Akano's arms and said softly. Then she secretly glanced at Akano's face, which was as sharp as a knife. At this time, he stared at the front with cold eyes, and Kanako's heart was full of attachment. The whooshing sound of the wind kept blowing past their ears as Akano ran, and the shadows of the trees on both sides also quickly retreated. Suddenly, Akano stopped on a branch, looking at a white monster with a head exposed on a branch not far away. It looked exactly the same as the one Yushin had caught before. What's wrong? Seeing Akano suddenly stop, Kanako looked up at Akano and found that he looked very solemn at this moment. Following his line of sight, Kanako screamed, "Why? Is there another one? Hasn't he been caught by the oil field? Maybe it's a special ninjutsu?" Akano was not sure. "Oh my. I finally caught up with you. If I'll let you run away, that adult will definitely not forgive me. So, please surrender obediently, so that you can feel better." Beisetsu leaned out his upper body at this time, dancing and shouting at Akano and the other man. Akano stared at him carefully and jumped from the tree to the ground. He put Kanako under a tree, let her lean against the tree, and whispered in her ear, "Wait for me." Then he stood up straight, staring at the grinning Beisetsu with an angry face. "What exactly are you planning, sir? Why are you staring at me and my wife? Huh? Exclamation mark. I can't tell you this, or that adult will kill me. I just don't know if the adult he's talking about is Uchiha Madara or Black Zetsu. Updates will be made at 12 noon on Monday, so you don't have to wait in the evening. Recommending books again. Recommending books. My classmate's mother and my girlfriend have both become my hot weapons. The link is below. Chapter 82 Remarks on the release. This is the first time I write a comment for my novel. I don't know what to say. First of all, thank you. As a post-80s, I wrote novels to save some private money, but no one signed several copies. I almost gave up on this book. I had already posted 6,000 words at the beginning of the new book the night before. So I'm very grateful to the editor Pengley. If he, or maybe she, hadn't picked up my book from the garbage dump, it might have been cut long ago, and there would be no comments on the listing today. Thank you again for your support, whether it is the book Friends with the last number 23,702. I haven't decided yet. I'm Jinmei Lang, Chengmeng Erxing, Ninglan Zixia, Chiandeo Shengren, Bi Jingchen, the book Friends with the last number 41,052, or the book Friends who voted for Hannibal, Liuguo, etc. I won't list them one by one here, because there are too many, and the author is clumsy, so I apologize to those book friends who are not mentioned. Of course, the most important thing is the book friends who support silently. If you don't read enough, this book will not be listed. So, I bow to everyone here, thank you all. Finally, I have to apologize. Because it is my first time writing a book, there are inevitably some poisonous points, especially the 3-character classic section. I felt embarrassed after posting it, but because the intelligent push has a word count requirement, I can't delete it, which caused many readers to abandon the book. I didn't write about those later. Thank you for your tolerance. Well, that's all. I hope you will continue to support. Words before the release. Finally, thank you. New chapters will be posted at 12 noon on Monday, so don't wait. Chapter 83, Fierce Fight in the Rain. Akano was going to fight to the death with White Zetsu, but White Zetsu was not good at fighting. What he was best at was gathering intelligence. So he knew that Kanako was Akano's weak spot, and his main target was the child in her belly. He didn't have to fight Akano head on, as long as he could ensure that the child in Kanako's belly was under his control. Oh, great. Finally someone is playing hide and seek with me. But be careful. If you fail, you will lose your wife and child. After saying that, White Zetsu quietly went underground and disappeared. Only the laughter he left before he disappeared was left in the air. Akano's tense nerves protected Kanako behind him, and turned his head to look around nervously. A pale hand stretched out from Kanako's feet, trying to pull her underground. Swish, a faint light flashed, and the kunai thrown by Akano accurately pierced the pale arm. Pa. The pale arm was pierced, and then abandoned by its owner, and fell to the ground. White Zetsu disappeared again. Kanako was very nervous at this time, and a nervous mood plus the fatigue of the long journey. At this time, the worst situation appeared. With a miserable cry, Akano turned his head and found Kanako leaning against the tree, leaving a pool of blood on the ground. Kanako tilted her head and leaned against the tree. Her face was full of sweat. Some anxiously shouted, "Akano, I seem to be giving birth soon." Akano was also at a loss at this time. What should I do? At this time, the figure of White Zetsu emerged from the tree. It seems that you are in trouble. This is interesting. He looked around at Akano and Kanako. Make a choice. You can either watch your wife and children die here, or let me take them away. Maybe I can save their lives. Akano was in a dilemma. If possible, he certainly hoped to return to Konoha with his wife safely. But now, if Kanako is not delivered as soon as possible, there is a high possibility that there will be one corpse and two lives. Kanako's face was very pale at this time, but she knew that her husband must be very conflicted at this time. In order not to drag down her husband and to protect the child in her belly, Kanako shouted loudly, "Akano, go quickly. Remember to come back to our child in the future." Akano's face was in pain, and he didn't know whether he should listen to her at this time. Beisetsu emerged from the ground and looked at the two with interest. "Oh, it's really touching." But there was no trace of emotion in his tone, and it was full of playful laughter. Seeing that Akano had not left yet, Kanako endured the severe pain, pulled out the kunai that Akano had just thrown from the ground, and put it across her neck. "Go. If you don't leave, believe it or not, I will die in front of you." Akano panicked and quickly dissuaded him. Okay, can't I go?" But there was already a little crying in his tone. He stared at Beisetsu with cold eyes. "You'd better keep them safe. If anything happens to them, no matter who you are, I will hunt you down to the ends of the earth," Akano said viciously. Akano felt that he was the most cowardly husband and father in the world. But in order to protect Kanako and her only child, he could only grit his teeth, endure the severe pain in his heart, and walk towards the woods. He put his back in front of Beisetsu without reservation. Akano thought to himself at this time, if that monster really wants to sneak attack, then just die like this. But Beisetsu's mind was on Kanako and the child in her belly at this time. He didn't care about Akano, who was no longer valuable. Looking at Akano's figure gradually disappearing in the woods, Kanako burst into tears. I don't know if it was because of pain or reluctance. Patter, patter. The misty drizzle turned into a downpour at this time. But Yuta and Uchiha didn't care. The rain around them seemed to be blocked by something, and had no effect on him. Haha, interesting. Uchiha smiled with his head raised. It's been a long time since I met someone who can match my momentum. It seems that you still have something. Well, now let me have a good time. Whoosh. With a sound, Madara's figure suddenly disappeared. Uchiha Madara is called the Rose of the Battlefield, not only because he wears red armor, but also because of his dance-like posture when fighting with the enemy. Dang. Yuta pulled out the short sword and held it horizontally in front of him. Uchiha Madara's attack reached him. The weapons collided with each other, and the two looked at each other, both flashing with excitement. After the attack, Uchiha Madara complained in his heart, what did this guy eat to grow up? How much weaker is he than Hashirama? Yushin held the short knife in one hand, and suddenly pushed forward with force, forcing Uchiha Madara to retreat a distance. At this moment, Yushin was more excited than ever before. Through the test just now, he knew that his physical fitness was much stronger than Uchiha Madara. Then, in terms of physical skills, he would not be afraid of Uchiha Madara, and the slight fear in his heart for him also disappeared. Uchiha Madara looked at Yushin holding the short knife, and his heart became alert. Judging from Yushin's strength and reaction just now, he felt that he might not be this guy's opponent in terms of physical skills. TSK Uchiha Madara was a little unhappy, and his speed increased rapidly, leaving only a black shadow in the rain. Yushin did not give in either, and rushed towards Uchiha Madara with a long sword in hand, leaving a white shadow in the air. There was another sound of metal clashing. At this time, Yushin had enough confidence, and the strength of his attack was also increased a lot. At this time, if someone stood nearby and watched, they might only see a series of afterimages. The rain was shattered in midair by the waves, caused by the fight between the two men, and scattered in the air. Uchiha Madara put his hands behind his back, trembling slightly. Yuta was in high spirits, staring at Uchiha Madara with excited eyes. Madara said calmly, "Kid, you are the strongest one I have ever seen in physical skills, but ninjas are more than just physical skills. Let's stop with the boring tricks. Then, it depends on whether you can satisfy me." Uchiha Madara put the middle finger and index finger of his right hand upright and placed them in front of his chest, fire style. Great fire extinguishing. Maybe Madara felt that he had lost face and he was so angry that he forgot that it was raining heavily. Although his great fire extinguishing was still powerful, it was a waste of chakra to use this move when the time and place were not on his side. Yuta looked at Madara's charming operation, thinking to himself, does this old guy have Alzheimer's disease? But his hands were not slow. Earth style, earth flow wall. The mud mixed with rainwater surged violently, and a wall of mud blocked Yushin. Chapter 84, Fierce Fight in the Rain, Part 2. Boom. The hot flames collided with the mud wall mixed with mud and water. The moisture on the mud wall was instantly evaporated, but it barely resisted the attack of the flames. Cough cough. The wet grass and trees were ignited, and the billowing smoke made Yushin cough. So he quickly retreated and escaped from the range of the smoke. After Yushin stood still, he raised his head and looked at the arrogant Uchiha Madara with a question mark on his face. I saw that Uchiha Madara's face was slightly red at this time. How could he be so overwhelmed? However, he still said with a stiff upper lip, very good, you can actually withstand my attack, but you have to be careful next time. Maybe it was because Uchiha Madara was old, and the previous fight made him feel the lack of chakra in his body. Uchiha Madara secretly sighed in his heart, although what this kid said is unpleasant, it is true that he is old. Fortunately, there was a proper plan before, otherwise, with my strength in my prime, the Moon plan would not be so troublesome. Perhaps because Uchiha Madara's Samurai had just been born at this time, in order to save the pupil power inside, Uchiha Madara did not use the Samurai to deal with Yushin. The 3 megatoma in his eye sockets rotated rapidly, and then formed a complex pattern, which was the eternal Manjaki Sharingan. Yushin looked at the eternal eye in Uchiha Madara's eyes and secretly complained in his heart, with this ninjutsu amplifier, Madara's strength will increase exponentially. This is a bit troublesome. More than a trouble. With the blessing of the Sharingan, Uchiha Madara felt full of strength in his body for the first time in a long time. Although he has not yet reached the point where he needs to be intubated to maintain his life in the later stage, he already needs to connect to the outer path statue from time to time to maintain his own state. The long-awaited battle made Uchiha Madara extremely excited. In order to win the battle quickly, Uchiha Madara directly released his ultimate move, Susanoo. A giant warrior composed of yin attribute chakra quickly took shape, and layer upon layer of chakra protected Uchiha Madara at the position between the giant's eyebrows. 10 meters, 30 meters, until it was close to 100 meters, the giant stopped growing. Looking at the towering giant warrior, Yushin complained with envy, this is simply cheating. But he didn't panic. He had already expected this situation. The chakra in Yushin's body flowed rapidly along the meridians, faintly glowing with electric light. Chakra that was even more powerful than Uchiha Madara's just now burst out instantly. Earth escape, behemoth. The ground was seen surging rapidly, and a huge palm stretched out from the ground and firmly grasped the ground. After a while, another hand stretched out from the ground, followed by an arm and a head. As the monsters under the ground slowly drilled out of the ground, a behemoth with a body size of nearly 80 meters appeared opposite Susanoo. Although it was made of rocks, the defense of the behemoth was still somewhat worrying at this time. In order to enhance the defense and agility of the behemoth, after developing the electromagnetic escape, the oil field finally solved this problem after countless experiments. Electromagnetic armor. Yushin shouted in a low voice, and instantly a buzzing sound appeared on the body of the behemoth. A layer of seemingly invisible energy field attached to the body of the behemoth, and the energy field was rotating at a high speed. After a moment, the buzzing sound disappeared, but that was not because the rotation stopped, but because the rotation speed was too fast, and the decibel of the sound emitted was beyond the hearing range of people. If someone touches the behemoth with his hand at this time, the high-speed rotating force field on its body can instantly grind that person's hand into meat paste. Uchiha Madara's Susanoo is not simple. This is the complete form of the Sharingan in its ultimate state. It is with this that Uchiha Madara can be called the Warring State's twin gods with the first generation Hokage Shirama. Facing the fully activated Uchiha Madara, Yushin dare not be careless at all. Although Uchiha Madara is already old at this time, Yushin dare not underestimate him at all. Yushin is not sure whether the behemoth he developed can compete with the complete form of Susanoo, so he can only make the worst plan, but at this time he still has to go all out. Just relying on his precise control of chakra and the ultimate change of the nature of Earth attribute chakra, combined with his special blood elimination, he can achieve such a level. This guy's really. Uchiha Madara is not an ordinary ninja. He saw at a glance that Yushin's electromagnetic escape was a blood elimination. At this time, he stood on the shoulder of Susanoo with his hands folded on his chest, looking at Yushin with admiration. This ninjutsu is very similar to Hashirama's woodman technique, but the thing outside of it makes me feel a little threatened. Hahaha, interesting. Madara didn't forget to pretend at this time. Kid, I admit that you are the best ninja I have ever seen besides Hashirama and me. So, now let's dance to our heart's content. Fight. Yuda shouted, his blood boiling at this time. Yuda controlled the behemoth under his feet and pounds towards Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. Fight. Uchiha Madara also responded excitedly. With a thought, his Susanoo strode towards the behemoth. Bang, bang. The two behemoths punched and kicked, neither giving in. Mud splashed everywhere, and the ground cracked. The violent collision produced a series of violent air waves, which quickly swept around with the two people as the center. For a moment, the rain over the entire battlefield was quiet and took detours. The splashed mud formed a small circular mountain range around. Boom. As the fight between the two became more and more intense, the airwaves swept the surrounding thousands of meters, or 1,000 meters away from the battlefield. A group of ninjas were fleeing everywhere. These people were sent by Hanzo to monitor Yushin. Even if Hanzo had no way to deal with Yushin, he had to know Yushin's whereabouts. Otherwise, if Yushin went crazy and caused damage in the country, Hanzo would be able to prepare in advance. But at this time, these rain ninjas had no time to monitor Yushin. Since the appearance of Uchiha Madara's Susanoo and Yushin's behemoth, the development of things has exceeded their imagination. Looking at the two towering monsters, these rain ninjas were lucky to survive the aftermath of the fight between the two monsters, let alone monitor them. They couldn't imagine that ninjas could be so powerful. At this time, they all began to doubt whether they were practicing fake ninjutsu. Some people had been torn to pieces by the aftermath of the fight between the two. They didn't dare to stay here and hurriedly fled to the safest place possible. Damn it. Why do we have to accept such a dangerous mission? The Konoha Silver Fox is such a monster. And who is the ninja who fought with him? Does anyone know? The leader of the Rain Ninja complained as he fled, and in the end, he did not forget his mission, and turned around to ask the others. A Rain Ninja in his 40s, pondered for a moment, and suddenly his expression changed. His legs began to tremble, and his escape speed dropped suddenly, looking for death. Although the other party was older than him, the leader of the Rain Ninja still cursed at him, rushed over and knocked him to the ground. Boom. A broken tree flew over the heads of the two men, almost piercing and nailing them to the ground. At this time, the old Rain Ninja ignored the tree that almost took his life, staring at the battlefield behind him with lifeless eyes, and muttered, "It's Madara. That man is Uchiha Madara. Hasn't he been killed by the first Hokage? How come he appears here, begging for subscription?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 85, Fierce Fight in the Rain, Part 3. Let's not talk about the life and death of those Rain Ninjas. After a fight between Yushin and Uchiha Madara, they found that his Susanoo was indeed very powerful. Whether it was defense, strength, or agility, it was more than a little stronger than his behemoth. But Yushin was surprised, and Uchiha Madara was even more surprised. He found that every time he came into contact with Yushin's behemoth, part of Susanoo's body would be destroyed by the invisible force field. Although it could recover quickly, it would consume his chakra. Uchiha Madara was originally old. Chakra was no longer sufficient as in his heyday, and with the continuous repair of the chakra consumed by Susanoo, Uchiha Madara was a little out of breath at this time. I can't drag it on any longer, Uchiha Madara thought to himself. Then he controlled Susanoo to jump back suddenly. The slight movement of Susanoo's huge body was earth-shaking. Moreover, in order to distance himself from Yushin, he controlled Susanoo and used all his strength to jump suddenly. When he landed, two small lakes formed on the ground. After pulling away, Uchiha Madara pulled out a huge samurai sword from behind Susanoo and slashed at Yushin's behemoth. Although Uchiha Madara was old at this time, the power of Susanoo's full strength attack should not be underestimated. With his swing, a huge crack began to spread on the ground. Soon it reached the feet of Yushin's behemoth. Yushin controlled the behemoth to jump into the air and looked at the huge crack spreading on the ground. He shouted above the behemoth, "Earth escape, mud river." The mud on both sides of the crack quickly surged and rushed towards the crack on the ground. Soon, the crack became a swamp. Although he had a place to stay, facing the big sword chopped by Susanoo, Yushin could not rely on the defense of the behemoth. Magnetic field distortion. Yushin's solemn eyes showed a spark of excitement. Finally there was an opponent who could fight with all his strength. Although attacking Uchiha Madara at this time felt a bit like punching a nursing home. Uchiha Madara suddenly felt uncomfortable, and everything around him, including the space, was twisted like a twist. Caught off guard, Uchiha Madara was almost thrown off Susanoo by the twisted space around him. The rain in the air was also twisted into a water tornado falling from the sky. The dark clouds in the sky looked like a giant funnel from a distance, connecting the water tornado that penetrated the sky and the earth. Although Uchiha Madara stabilized his body in time, Susanoo was twisted by the suddenly twisted force field and staggered, and the samurai sword in Susanoo's hand was also swung off. Boom. The samurai sword that chopped in the air left another canyon on the ground, forming a V-shape with the previous one. Seeing that Susanoo's lower body was unstable, Yushin controlled the behemoth's legs to kick and quickly bounce up. After falling in the air, the behemoth rushed towards Susanoo with its ears straight. The behemoth clenched its right fist and swung it hard at Susanoo's face. Bang! The behemoth charged and hit, causing the already unstable Susanoo to fall to the ground with its forelegs in the air. Susanoo's samurai mask was also smashed to pieces by the high-speed rotating force field on the behemoth's fist. Looking at Susanoo lying on the ground, Yushin controlled the behemoth to ride on it, wrapped his legs around its waist, held Susanoo's head with one hand, and raised his fist with the other hand. Bang! Bang! He beat Susanoo hard. At the same time, the magnetic field on the behemoth's body was also rotating to the extreme, and it kept cutting Susanoo with a sizzling sound. Uchiha Madara naturally refused to surrender. Because of the size difference, Behemoth was much smaller than Susanoo. Before Behemoth could throw a few punches, Uchiha Madara controlled Susanoo to push his hands back, stood up and swung the Behemoth into the air. Yuta controlled Behemoth to adjust its posture in the air and balance its body. After landing, it half knelt on the ground and slid for a distance before removing the force of Susanoo. Yuta raised his head and stared solemnly at Uchiha Madara standing on the top of Susanoo. Although Yuta had the upper hand temporarily, he did not dare to be careless in the face of Uchiha Madara. The magnetic field distortion was fully activated. Crack, crack. Susanoo finally couldn't bear the twisting force formed by the space distortion, and cracks appeared on its armor. Under the pressure of the space distortion, Uchiha Madara also used his limited chakra to resist. The two sides were deadlocked. Although Yushin's body had been transformed by the mysterious beads for a long time, his chakra was much more than that of ordinary people. Even compared with Uchiha Madara in his prime, he was a few points stronger. But Uchiha Madara had the eternal Manjaki Sharingan, a ninjutsu amplifier, which could use less chakra to perform ninjutsu with double the power. Therefore, Yushin also frequently used the blood eliminating electromagnetic escape to counter Uchiha Madara's ninjutsu. At this time, there was not much chakra left in Yushin's body. Slowly, Uchiha Madara also discovered the distortion of the surrounding space was getting smaller and smaller, and the electromagnetic rotation on the behemoth gradually disappeared. Yushin half knelt on the shoulder of the behemoth, supporting his body with his right hand, and panting heavily. Under the effect of the distortion of space, Uchiha Madara finally couldn't maintain Susanoo, and he himself survived with all his strength. At this time, he was lying in the mud, with his hands and feet spread out, and his body was in a mess. He stared blankly at the sky that had returned to calm. The heavy rain fell from the sky again, splashing on the two of them. Haha. After a while, Uchiha Madara laughed. It's so satisfying. I haven't had such a satisfying fight for a long time. Little brat. I recognize you, but it's still too early for you to win against me. Uchiha Madara suddenly jumped up from the ground, leaned forward, kicked his legs, and rushed towards Yushin quickly. He thought to himself, I really regret not listening to Black Zetsu's advice. This child really can't be kept, otherwise it will have a great impact on the Moon Eye plan in the future. Although the old woman Mito has not much time left. However, with Yushin's Konoha, it will still be very troublesome for the Nine Tails to plan in the future. Looking at the Uchiha Madara rushing over, Yushin drew out his short sword and used up the last bit of chakra in his body. He jumped into the air, raised his hands above his head, and pointed the tip of the knife directly at the dark clouds in the sky. Under the effect of the distortion of space just now, the clouds contained a large amount of ions due to friction. Under Yushin's guidance, the ions in the dark clouds quickly gathered on the tip of the short sword. Roar! A monster head made of lightning poked out from the clouds and roared at Uchiha Madara below. Then, Yushin suddenly waved his hands downward and shouted thunder release, Kirin. The monster that had just emerged from the clouds rushed directly to Uchiha Madara on the ground at lightning speed. Boom. The huge power made the ground seem to jump a few times, and the nearby residents thought there was an earthquake. Please subscribe and update regularly at 8 o'clock in the morning. Chapter 86, Fierce Battle in the Rain, Part 4. Even if subscribed to 500 additional chapters. When Yushin landed on the ground, he half crouched on the ground, panting heavily. He supported his body with his hands on the handle of the short blade stuck in the ground. He was so tired that he couldn't even stand up at this time. He stared nervously at the place where the Thunder Kirin had just wreaked havoc. After everything calmed down, Yushin did not find Uchiha Madara there. He instantly became nervous and his senses were fully opened. Suddenly, Yushin discovered that there was a very special chakra moving quickly 3 kilometers underground. Yushin knew without thinking, this might be Black Zetsu's move. However, it is possible that the strength he showed when fighting with Uchiha Madara also frightened Black Zetsu, otherwise he would not be in a hurry to save Uchiha Madara at this time, but would take advantage of the fact that Uchiha Madara was already at the end of his strength to solve this big problem. Yushin was not surprised at all that he failed to kill Uchiha Madara. Even if Black Zetsu had not taken action just now, with only the life-saving magic skill of the Sharingan, the new Eyes energy, Yushin would have no way to deal with Uchiha Madara. Who knows how many 3 Magatama Sharingan Uchiha Madara has collected over the years. Yushin stood up and looked around. Suddenly, he looked at the place where the rain ninjas who had been monitoring him had stayed, and the corners of his mouth rose. Haha. This must be a headache for Hanzo, right? Who would have thought that the famous Uchiha Madara would hide in the land of rain for such a long time? Haha. Yushin was a little gloating. With Hanzo's suspicious character, he might not be able to sleep well in the future. Then he put away his ninja sword and walked away. He planned to return to the barracks immediately to deal with the turmoil that the next battle would bring to the ninja world. It was indeed as Yushin expected. Although in the end, due to the distortion of the magnetic field launched by Yushin, only the leader of the Rain Ninja survived. However, he also knew the information of Yushin and the other two. When he returned to see Hanzo, the Rain Ninja quickly told Hanzo everything he knew. What did you say? That Yuta not only fought fiercely in the land of rain, but the one he fought was Uchiha Madara. Are you sure it was that Uchiha Madara? Hanzo's eyes widened, thinking he was hallucinating. I don't know, sir. But that giant warrior who can reach the sky and the earth is exactly the same as the legend. The Rain Ninja was not sure whether it was Uchiha Madara. After all, the ninja who recognized Uchiha Madara was dead. Hanzo was confused now. Damn it, how could a person like Uchiha Madara hide in our land of rain? Does he have any intentions towards the land of rain? Damn Uchiha Madara, why didn't Hashirama kill him in the first place? What was the purpose of him hiding for so long? Hanzo couldn't care about other things at this time. After all, Yuta alone was enough to give him a headache, and then there was Uchiha Madara who had been dead for a long time, but whose intentions were unclear. He wanted to give the Land of Rain to several other countries at this time. Anyway, the Land of Rain has been ruined by several big countries. But thinking about the support and expectations of the people of the Rain country, Hanzo immediately gave up this plan. At least under his own leadership, as long as there is no accident, the residents of the Rain country can still guarantee their lives. Who knows how other countries will deal with the residents of the Rain country. But now the situation in the Rain country has exceeded his ability. Hanzo's eyes turned cold. Since I'm not doing well, then no one can live in peace. Having made up his mind, Hanzo called the Rain Ninja to him and whispered in his ear for a while. The Rain Ninja nodded from time to time. After Hanzo finished his instructions, he solemnly promised, "Don't worry, sir, within a week, other countries will know that Uchiha Madara is still alive." Similarly, not far from the battlefield of Yuda and Uchiha Madara, there was also a patrol of Sand Ninja. After they heard the noise, they wanted to go over to investigate. But they found that the aftermath of the battle between the two men prevented them from getting close at all. But the two monsters that penetrated the sky and the earth can be seen clearly even from a long distance. Although they don't know who the two people fighting are. After all, Yuta had never used his behemoth in front of people. So the Sand Ninjas could only tell the Kazakage about the situation vaguely. After hearing the descriptions of those people, the Kazakage weighed it in his mind and found that he was no match for any of the two people. The Kazakage felt a little depressed. Why has the ninja world become like this now? How can a dignified Kazakage suddenly give people the impression that he is so weak? It would be fine if there was only Yuta, but why did two unknown strong men suddenly appear? Now he seems like a minion. Ibizo sat aside with a calm face, closing his eyes in deep thought, his brain working rapidly, trying to deduce who the two people are. The Kazakage looked at Ibizo and asked expectantly, "How is it? What did you think of?" Ibizo suddenly opened his eyes and said seriously, "I roughly guessed who one of them is." Who? The Kazakage was also a little curious. After all, he had no clue at this time. Yuta. Konoha Silver Fox Yuta. According to the descriptions of those people, it can be concluded that the ability Yuta used to defeat the third Raikage was not bloodline, but blood elimination. Ebers paused here, not knowing whether he should speak out his guess about the other person. After all, it was too absurd. But seeing that the Kazakage seemed to be doubting his life, Ebers decided to tell him. As for the other person who fought with Yuta, according to the records of the ancestors, it is very likely that he is from the Uchiha clan. As for who it is not clear yet, but the possibility of Uchiha Madara is not ruled out. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. After hearing the name, the Kazakage quickly denied it. Uchiha Madara was killed by the first Hokage himself. Konoha also confirmed his death. How could he be resurrected from the dead? The Kazakage really didn't want to believe that the other person was Uchiha Madara. After all, he had heard of the reputation of the Warring States twin gods when he was a child. Alas. Ibizo sighed. I hope I guessed wrong, right? Otherwise, he must have some earth-shaking plan after faking his death and hiding for so many years. Coupled with his godlike strength, I'm afraid the ninja world will be in danger by then. It's ridiculous to say that as invaders of the Rain country, they actually began to worry about the safety of the entire ninja world. However, after Uchiha Madara was brought back to his hiding place by Black Zetsu immediately ordered White Zetsu to give Uchiha Madara some emergency treatment, and finally prevented Uchiha Madara from hitting GG again. Although Uchiha Madara can be resurrected with pupil techniques, but every time it is activated, all 3 Magatama Sharingan will be wasted. And now, Uchiha Madara has not collected many Sharingan, so he can save as many as he can. How is it? There is no accident with the container? Black Zetsu is still very concerned about the situation of the new container of the Samsurai. Hehe. Don't worry, when I arrived, the woman happened to be giving birth, so the man was hesitant, so I didn't spend much effort to bring the woman back. However, after giving birth, the woman was afraid that we would use her to threaten the man, so she committed suicide on the spot. I was only concerned about the birth of the container at that time, and couldn't stop it. Trouble. Hey, Zetsu said gloomily. But this is also good. It is convenient for us to arrange the fate of the container. But we can't use the death of his parents to increase his hatred for the world, which is a pity. Please subscribe. Chapter 87. The Strange Ninja World. Hanzo also knew that he couldn't do anything to those two monsters. So he secretly let people leak the news that Uchiha Madara was still alive to other countries. At first, everyone thought it was just a joke by some bored guy. How could a person who had been dead for more than 10 years still be alive? But those rumors were true, and even said that he had a big battle with Konoha Silver Fox Yushin in the Rain Country, and even had a specific location. Is Uchiha Madara really still alive? People who got the news couldn't help but mutter. Afterwards, all countries sent people to the battle site, where Yushin and Uchiha Madara were fighting at that time to verify it. They found that the landform there had changed completely. Judging from the traces left by the battle, these changes in the terrain were indeed caused by the fierce fighting of huge things. Especially the two newly appeared lakes. No matter how you look at them, they look like huge footprints. This told the spies of various countries more clearly that Uchiha Madara might really be alive. They quickly reported the situation they had found back. Now the leaders of several countries couldn't sit still. Although Uchiha Madara was still alive, according to his age, he probably wouldn't live long. But Yuta was able to defeat Uchiha Madara. This is a big deal. Even Uchiha Madara in his old age is not a match for ordinary people. Now they all have to face two problems. One is that Uchiha Madara has been faking his death for so many years. What is he planning in the dark? The other is how to face the problem of Konoha. Yuta can defeat or even kill Uchiha Madara, so it is certain that none of them will be Yuta's opponent. As for whether Konoha will send Yuta to their side, all countries are worried, out of fear of Yuta's strength. For a time, the fierce World War II was strangely calm. Yuta just returned to the Konoha military camp and asked Hisashi, "Has anyone looked for me recently?" Hisashi was a little confused by the question. "No. This is a military restricted area. How could anyone come in?" After hearing Hisashi's answer, Yuta waved his hand and let him continue training. He returned to his residence and thought to himself, how could there be no one? Did they encounter any accidents on the way? Yushin was worried about the safety of his friend, and then he turned on his senses, but he didn't find Akano within a radius of 10 kilometers. Strange. Did he meet White Zetsu? But White Zetsu's combat power is not that good. But he would never have thought that Kanako happened to be in labor at that time, and Akano had no choice but to compromise with White Zetsu. After that, he felt that he had no face to see Yushin, so he didn't come to find him. But now Yushin has no time to look for Akano and the others. He knows that the battle between him and Uchiha Madara cannot be concealed from other countries. He now needs to stay in the military camp in person to prevent any possible situations. Sure enough, in less than a week, the battle between him and Uchiha Madara was widely spread in the ninja world. Others would be fine, but Inoki, who had personally seen Uchiha Madara, almost jumped up in anxiety. Damn, how could that monster still be alive? He couldn't help but think of the unruly figure and his contemptuous eyes when he and his master, the second generation Suzuki, went to visit Konoha. But then he calmed down. Even if Uchiha Madara was still alive, what would it matter? Uchiha Madara was already very old, and he couldn't even beat Konoha's Silver Fox Yuta. Besides, according to the traces of the battle at the scene at that time, it was still unknown whether Uchiha Madara was alive now. He just stopped the attack and planned to see the specific situation first. In order to be on the safe side, Konoha was forced to send Yuta over, and he also asked the troops to withdraw from the land of grass. He himself returned to the village to take charge in person to stabilize people's hearts. After receiving Yuta's report, the third generation took a deep puff of cigarette, but his brows frowned even tighter. He was not only surprised that Uchiha Madara was still alive, but also surprised at Yuta's strength. He began to worry about the safety of his old friend Danzo. After learning that Inoki asked the Rock Ninja to withdraw from the land of grass, he also asked Yuta Koharu to stay in the land of grass to deal with everything here, and he himself returned to Konoha. The third generation was also tangled in his heart at this time. On one side was his longtime companion, and on the other side was the strongest fighting force in Konoha at present. He didn't know who he should help, but in the end, personal feelings overcame the trace of reason in his heart. Because in his opinion, Danzo was his longtime friend after all, and he had made great contributions to Konoha anyway, so he couldn't let Yuta take his life anyway. As the battlefield of World War II fell into a strange calm, Yuta had nothing to do all day and could only train more severely. But this time, Yuta not only didn't complain, but was happy with it. After all, Yuta is now a person who can defeat Uchiha Madara. In the ninja world, there is already a trend of becoming a new generation of ninja gods. It is such an honor to have Yuta guide himself. What else can I complain about? As the days passed, Konoha's 31st year also came to an end. Shortly after entering Konoha 32 years ago, the Second Ninja World War, which had calmed down, changed again because of one thing. That is, Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law happened to meet the team led by Hatake Tsukumo during a border patrol. Chiyo's son, who was unaware of the situation, immediately sent a distress signal to the rear. When Hatake Tsukumo saw the signal, he thought they were ambushed by the Sand Ninja. So Hatake Tsukumo immediately led his subordinates to a fierce battle with the Sand Ninja patrol. In this battle, Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law both died. After receiving her son's distress signal, Chiyo quickly brought support, but it was still a step late. When she saw the bodies of her son and daughter-in-law, Chiyo went completely crazy. She did not hesitate to order the Sand Ninja army here to launch a fierce attack on Konoha's defense line. Because of Tsunade, Chiyo's poison lost its effect in this battle. Hatake Tsukumo opened fire at full power and actually gained the upper hand in the battle with Chiyo. Especially the white blade light he shed when fighting. It was like the teeth of a beast tearing the enemy in front of him. The title of Konoha White Fang was born since then, and together with Konoha Silver Fox, Konoha Twin Stars completely became the top masters of the new generation of Konoha. However, because of Chiyo's reckless attack, a large number of casualties were caused to the Sand Ninja troops, and Hatake Tsukumo took the opportunity to launch a counterattack against the Sand Ninja. As a last resort, Ibizo could only endure the grief in his heart and persuade the Kazekage to send troops to support his sister. Otherwise, when Konoha's army invades the Wind Country, then, not only will his sister be in danger, but the troops currently in the Rain Country will also be in danger of being cut off. Although the Kazekage was very unhappy with Chiyo, he could only grit his teeth and lead the Sand Ninja to completely withdraw from the Rain Country. However, before withdrawing, he also ordered the troops to plunder the Rain Country. He returned to the Sand Village and asked Ibizo to lead the troops to support Chiyo. He didn't want to see that bad-tempered woman at all. If it weren't for her recklessness, the Sand Ninja wouldn't have returned empty-handed in this war. Chapter 88 Hatake Tsukumo. Tsunade's pregnancy has nothing to do with me. With Ibizo coming with the reinforcement, the Sand Ninja barely blocked Konoha's offensive. Sister, you were too impulsive this time. Ibizo's tone was somewhat reproachful. But seeing his sister's haggard face, he couldn't bear to say anything more. Ibizo, do you still have any conscience? Those killed by Hatake Tsukumo were your nephew and nephew's wife, not my son and daughter-in-law. You don't want to avenge them, but blame me instead? After hearing what Ibizo said, Chiyo was furious. Her hot temper and the pain of losing her son made her explode instantly, and she attacked Ibizo. Okay, I was wrong, isn't it okay? Ibizo had no way to deal with his unruly sister, so he could only give in. Then what do you think about in the future? The attitude of Lord Kazekage is already very clear. I'm afraid that the responsibility for the failure of this war will be thrown on your head. Ibizo asked with some concern. Let him be, anyway, I have nothing left. Chiyo said with no desire to live, and she didn't care. But then she gritted her teeth, her eyes gleaming with hatred and said, but before that, I must kill Hatake Tsukumo to avenge the couple, so brother, please help me. Seeing the haggard look of her sister who had always been strong, Ibizo couldn't bear to refuse. Okay, I will let the troops I brought here listen to your command. But sister, you have to cheer up too. There is still the little scorpion waiting at home. Chiyo only then thought of her little grandson, and her spirits instantly lifted. Yes, I still have the little scorpion. He is still waiting for us to go back home. At this time, Chiyo was like a drowning man grabbing a life-saving straw, excited and incoherent. But then she asked worriedly, but we promised him to go home together, and in the end I went back alone. If the little scorpion asks where his parents are, why didn't they come back together? How should I answer him? Alas. Ibizo didn't know how to face the ignorant and cute little scorpion, so he could only sigh. It's all the fault of that damn Hatake Tsukumo, so I don't want to wait any longer, and will launch an attack on Konoha tomorrow. Chiyo gritted her teeth. Ibizo knew that he couldn't persuade Chiyo, so he nodded in agreement. At the same time in the Konoha camp, Tsukumo, the atmosphere in the Sand Ninja is a little strange today. You have to be careful. At this time, Tsunade was wearing a ninja vest, her hair was tied behind her, and she hastily tied a ponytail. But it didn't affect her appearance at all, but it was more dashing than before. I know. Since Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law died, the whole person has become a lot more irritable. Hatake Tsukumo also had a headache at this time. Tsunade rolled her eyes at him and complained to him speechlessly. Who told you to kill someone's son? Who wouldn't be crazy if it were you? The nearby ninjas were also dazzled by the charm of Tsunade when she rolled her eyes. After being absent-minded for a while, they looked at Hatake Tsukumo and Tsunade with gossip in their eyes. Are you talking about Lady Tsunade and Lady Hatake Tsukumo? The man who was speaking stretched out his little fingers, touched each other, and then stared at his companion excitedly. His companion regarded Tsunade as his goddess, and flatly denied it. TSK. Don't spread rumors. What can there be between the two of them? Alas. Before he could finish his words, he saw Tsunade suddenly covering her mouth, retching and running back to the tent. Hatake Tsukumo was still inexperienced and confused. What's going on? Is she sick? The ninja who wanted to say that there was nothing wrong with the two of them just now was stunned in an instant, as if he had suffered a great blow. What's going on? My goddess. Is she going to leave me too? After saying this, he covered his chest with his hands, looking heartbroken. But his companions glanced at him with disdain, ignoring his antics. TSK. You are just farting at night and imagining nonsense. Lady Tsunade would not fall in love with you, even if she was blind. Then he stared at Hatake Tsukumo excitedly. Lady Hatake Tsukumo is really amazing. He took Lady Tsunade down quietly, and even bought one, and got one free. TSK. After hearing this, his companions also stared at Hatake Tsukumo curiously. Although they knew that there was no chance for him and Tsunade, they were still very upset with Hatake Tsukumo. He is just a little bit stronger than me, and a little bit prettier. How could he succeed? Hatake Tsukumo also noticed the gazes of the two people, and suddenly turned his head to look over here, scaring the two people away in a hurry. Am I so scary? Hatake Tsukumo looked at the panicked two people, a little confused. But he didn't know that in less than a while, the news that Lady Tsunade was pregnant with Hatake Tsukumo's child spread all over the military camp, and gossip spread all over the Konoha camp. Before dawn, everyone in the Konoha camp knew that Lady Tsunade and Hatake Tsukumo were in love. I'm still a young boy, how did I suddenly become Tsunade's lover? And Tsunade is pregnant? But I really didn't do anything. What does her pregnancy have to do with me? Hatake Tsukumo looked innocent after hearing the rumor. He was assigned a partner without knowing anything. At Tsunade's mind then appeared Yuta's figure, but she had agreed not to disturb his life, so she stroked her slightly bulging belly and cursed softly, "Asshole." But a happy glow appeared on her face. However, as the day dawned, the ninjas in the military camp instantly became serious. The playful smiles when talking about gossip were gone, and everyone had a hint of murderous intent on their faces. Hatake Tsukumo and Tsunade stood in front of everyone. Hatake Tsukumo, as the commander, spoke first. I believe everyone has already known that not long ago, the Sand Ninja support troops have arrived. He looked around the Konoha ninja troops standing upright, and suddenly said loudly, but I believe that victory will eventually belong to Konoha, and it is time for everyone to practice their own ninja way. Alright, let's go. As thousands of ninjas set off one after another, their movements naturally could not be hidden from the Sand Ninjas not far away. Chiyo, who had been holding back her anger for a long time, could no longer suppress her hatred in her heart, and had already led her troops to prepare to meet the enemy not far away. When Chiyo saw the tuft of white hair in front of the Konoha troops, she could no longer suppress her anger. Attack. Chiyo gave the order to attack. She herself ran directly towards the enemy who killed her son, and Ibizo was too late to stop her. Chiyo moved her fingers while running, and several kunai flew towards Hatake Tsukumo. Hatake Tsukumo saw the Sand Ninjas rushing forward, and also gave the order to attack. How is it? Can you hold back Ibizo? Hatake Tsukumo was a little worried about Tsunade. After all, she was pregnant now, and she didn't know if she could exert her strength. Tsunade waved her hand and said proudly, "Leave it to me." After that, she kicked her legs and ran directly towards Ibizo. Hatake Tsukumo looked at Tsunade's back, drew out his ninja sword, and picked up the kunai thrown by Chiyo. Swish, swish, several sand ninjas fell to the ground with black faces. Then Hatake Tsukumo looked at Chiyo with a playful look. Chiyo didn't think that she could cause trouble to Hatake Tsukumo with a few kunai. She just wanted to buy herself some time. As for the few dead sand ninjas, she didn't care at all. After throwing the kunai, she didn't even look at it and took out a scroll directly. A moment later, 10 strange puppets appeared in front of the previous generation, each with a number on the top of their heads. Chiyo's secret. Numbers on fingers. White secret technique. The 10 people of the Nyamatsu. The author also wants to update more. 10,000 words a day. But I'm middle-aged, I have to go to work, and I have a lot of things to do at home, so I can only do my best. I hope everyone understands. At the same time, thank you for your support. Chapter 89. War begins again. Let's not talk about Hatake Tsukumo and Chiyo, but Tsunade went straight to Ibizo. In order to prevent him from joining forces with Chiyo, Tsunade beat several sand ninjas who blocked her way, and jumped directly into the air, taking out the summoning scroll. Summoning technique. Tsunade shouted. Bang! A huge cloud of white smoke appeared in the battlefield. When the smoke cleared, the huge body of the slug appeared in front of the sand ninjas. Tsunade-sama, do you need my help? Should we kill them all? The slug's voice was soft and cute, but the words made the sand ninjas sweat. Thank you, slug. In order to force Ibizo to come over, Tsunade directly summoned her own summoning beast. Glad to serve Tsunade-sama. The slug's voice still sounded cute, but then the sand ninjas started to have bad luck. The slug spewed venom, and the sand ninjas that were touched were either dead or injured. In an instant, a large number of sand ninjas around the slug were cleared. As the slug moved, more sand ninjas were either poisoned to death or crushed to death. Ordinary ninjas can only die when facing a large summoning beast like a slug. Stop it. Ibizo saw a large number of sand ninjas being killed by the slug and hurried over. Wind style, great skyball. Boom. Ibizo directly hit the slug's body with a ninjutsu, trying to stop it from continuing to slaughter the sand ninjas. Although Ibizo was an advisor to the sand ninjas, because of his superb wisdom, his strength was not weak at all, at least at the quasi-shadow level. But after the slug was hit, its body quickly broke into pieces, turning into small individuals, and then reorganized into a new large slug. How should I fight this? Ibizo thought to himself. But he couldn't think of a good way to stop the slug, so he could only fight with the slug. Ibizo took out a scroll like Chiyo and made seals with his hands. Bang! 5 puppets of different shapes appeared. Although they were not as famous as Chiyo's 10 people, they should not be underestimated. The 5 puppets used a ninjutsu of a certain attribute respectively, and the combined ninjutsu made Tsunade and the slug suffer a lot when they were not prepared. It was simply a weakened angle. It was just that his attack had some effect at the beginning, and then it was resolved one by the slug who was prepared. As for Tsunade, compared with the safety of the child in her belly, fighting didn't seem so interesting. She stood on the slug's head with her hands on her chest, looking around the entire battlefield. As long as the sand ninja didn't attack her, she wouldn't take action. What if it affected the child in her belly? Ibizo looked at Tsunade standing on the slug's head. Although he hated her, he couldn't attack her. Kill. As Ibizo and Chiyo held back Tsunade and Hatake Tsukumo, the rest of the sand ninjas rushed towards the main Konoha army. For a moment, blood was everywhere on the battlefield, accompanied by 1 or 2 screams from time to time, and the cruelty of war was clearly displayed in front of everyone. But both sides were determined ninjas, and they were doing everything they could to harvest each other's lives. Tsunade noticed that the casualties of the Konoha army began to increase, and knew that she could not continue to fish. She stared at Ibizo, who was controlling the puppet, with a look of fighting spirit. She knew that she could only fight quickly, otherwise it would affect the baby in her belly. So she notified the slug to cooperate, and then jumped down, and punched Ibizo's puppet. Bang! Ibizo didn't expect Tsunade to suddenly take the initiative to attack, and lost a puppet without checking for a while. But after seeing Tsunade coming down, Ibizo was secretly happy, finally not hiding in a high place. Then I don't have to be so depressed. So he controlled the remaining puppets to attack Tsunade. Ibizo's fingers kept trembling, and the 4 puppets were also flying in the air and rushing towards Tsunade. Tsunade looked serious when she saw the puppets rushing towards her. She knew that Ibizo's strength was not less than hers at this time. She clenched her right fist, bounced her legs again, and flew up. Boom. The terrifying strange power made Tsunade's fist hit the rushing puppet like a cannonball. Tsunade and Hatake Tsukumo, who are strong in physical skills, have too strong a control over puppeteers. As long as they attack the puppets will basically be scrapped. Ibizo looked at the puppets that were torn into pieces with heartache. It took only a short while, and 2 of his 5 puppets were scrapped. At this time, several nearby sand ninjas saw Ibizo at a disadvantage and rushed to Tsunade, intending to support Ibizo. Seeing the sand ninja's actions, Tsunade's eyes were cold, and she put one hand on her chest with 2 fingers together and shouted softly, "Open." Boom. Tsunade suddenly burst out with a monstrous momentum. This is the signature ninjutsu of the Senju clan, chakra pressure. The second generation relied on this technique to weaken the enemy's strength every time they were in battle. Faced with Tsunade's sudden burst of momentum, the sand ninjas who came to reinforce Ibizo were stunned for a moment. Puff. Before they could come back to their senses, the slug seized the opportunity and sprayed a mouthful of thick phlegm. The slug's huge body definitely sprayed a lot of phlegm. Those sand ninjas were instantly drenched. The slug's venom is very corrosive. As soon as they were drenched, several sand ninjas lay on the ground and screamed in pain. Ibizo was also startled by Tsunade's sudden burst of momentum, but when he came to his senses, he saw the slug's thick phlegm coming towards him. He quickly jumped back and dodged the slug's attack. Just looking at the sand ninjas rolling on the ground, Ibizo couldn't bear it and could only give them a quick death. Just as he was about to continue attacking Tsunade, the slugs suddenly split into countless individuals and climbed on the shoulders of every Konoha ninja. The injuries suffered by those Konoha ninjas instantly improved. Seeing this scene, Konoha's morale was greatly boosted, and the attack became more fierce, completely a desperate style of fighting. The morale of the sand ninjas plummeted. They worked hard for a long time to injure their opponents, but they recovered in a blink of an eye. What's the point of fighting? The other side has a nurse. There is no way to fight. In addition, Konoha didn't have to worry about being injured, so the attack became more fierce. For a time, the sand ninjas were beaten back step by step, and a large number of sand ninjas were left on the ground. Seeing the sand ninja being defeated by Konoha, Ebis knew that the sand ninja was defeated and had no chance at all. The shadow of failure instantly enveloped Ebis's heart. Before he could think of a way to turn the tide of the battle, Chiyo's angry roar came from a distance. "Damn Hatake Tsukumo, I will fight you." Ebis and Tsunade turned their heads and saw that 8 of Chiyo's puppets had been scrapped. She injected all her chakra into the remaining 2 puppets, intending to self-destruct and drag Hatake Tsukumo to death with her. Chiyo's body was emitting visible chakra at this time, and the ninjas fighting near them felt a burst of heat. When they saw Chiyo's current state, they didn't care about the battle anymore and quickly fled from here. "Tsukumo, get out of the way." "No, sister." Tsunade and Ebis shouted at the same time. They didn't care about each other at this time and quickly rushed towards Hatake Tsukumo and Chiyo, trying to stop Chiyo from self-destructing. Please subscribe. Chapter 90, Sand Ninja Defeat. Because of Chiyo's crazy behavior, the entire battlefield fell silent. Everyone fled from Chiyo's surroundings and looked at that side nervously. They were not only concerned about the safety of their own commander, but some of them were also curious about the power of the self-detonation of a cage-level strongman, and even had some expectations in their hearts. But, just when everyone thought Chiyo was dead, suddenly a lot of black iron sand burst out from the ground, and then formed a hemisphere to trap Chiyo inside. The sudden situation made everyone feel relieved. At least everyone didn't have to worry about being affected by Chiyo's self-detonation. Finally caught up. This was a voice coming from a high place. Everyone looked up and saw a man with silver hair and wearing a Konoha Jonin vest floating in the air. Seeing the person coming, the Konoha ninjas cheered instantly. "It's Lord Yuda. The sand ninja is doomed. Lord Yuda is the new generation of the god of ninjas. Lord Yuda is here." We are sure to win. Long live Lord Yuda. After hearing the cheers of the Konoha troops, the Sand Ninja also knew the identity of the person who came, and their morale plummeted, and they were extremely terrified. Konoha Silver Fox Yuda just defeated Uchiha Madara not long ago. Isn't this monster in the land of rain? How could he come here? Yuda sensed the situation in the iron cage, and found that Chiyo was unconscious inside. Yuda laughed in his heart. What a face-saving old woman. Yuda carefully sensed it, and found that Chiyo was pretending to faint again. Maybe she didn't want to embarrass herself in front of so many people. In fact, Chiyo was also in a rage just now, and planned to drag Hatake Tsukumo, her enemy, to die together. But after hearing Ibizo's voice, she suddenly remembered that she still had a grandson to take care of, and for a moment she was reluctant to die. However, the atmosphere was already so intense, and it seemed a bit bad to suddenly retreat at this time. It happened that Yuta's arrival gave her a way out, so she simply fainted. Yuta saw that both sides stopped fighting, and fell to the ground. He held the hilt of the sword with his hand, and pressed the Sand Ninja with all his momentum. The Sand Ninja felt the huge pressure from Yuta, and forgot to attack for a while. Ibizo came to Yuta under pressure at this time, and said humbly, the Sand Ninja lost this war. I wonder if Mr. Yuta can let the Sand Ninja present? After seeing Yuta, Ibizo knew that the Sand Ninja lost this war, so in order to reduce the losses, he could only admit defeat. Otherwise, with the loss of these elites, the Wind Country might be kicked out of the position of the 5 major countries. But Yuta didn't answer him at all, but just looked in the direction of Hatake Tsukumo with his eyes. Ibizo immediately understood that he had found the wrong person. Hatake Tsukumo was the person in charge of this battlefield, and Yuta couldn't take over the main position. Then he moved his lips again, as if he had something to say. Yuta knew what he wanted to say after seeing it, and smiled. Your sister is really eye-opening. Ibizo didn't understand what he was saying, and saw Yuta remove the protective shield made of iron sand, revealing Chiyo lying on the ground. At first, Ibizo was a little worried about his sister's condition after seeing it. But after going forward and observing carefully, his face turned slightly red. My sister may be too sad because of losing her son, so she fainted. He saw Chiyo's steady breathing and slightly trembling eyelids, and saw that Chiyo was pretending to faint. But in order to take care of his sister's face, he could only force an explanation. Then he felt a little embarrassed, and ran directly to Hatake Tsukumo to discuss surrender. We won. We won. It's so good to be alive. I can finally go back and reunite with my family. After knowing the news that the Sand Ninja was going to surrender, the Konoha ninjas on the entire battlefield cheered. The remaining Sand Ninjas were dejected, looking like they were at the mercy of others, and put down their weapons, waiting for the judgment of fate. Why are you here, you bastard? Tsunade was a little happy when she saw Yuta, but she didn't want people to guess the relationship between him and Yuta, so she asked indifferently. Yuta felt Tsunade's belly and found that she was indeed pregnant. Since having sex with Tsunade, Yuta has also buried a pyramid of road signs on the way to this place to prevent accidents. After getting up today, Yuta just routinely checked the situation of Konoha and Tsunade. He was relieved when he knew that the 3rd generation returned to the village. After knowing his own strength, the 3rd generation would definitely not want to let the conflict between him and Danzo continue to escalate. I believe that if Danzo has any actions against his family, the 3rd generation will definitely come forward to stop it. But the news heard from Tsunade made Yuta almost spit out blood. Tsunade is pregnant? At first, Yuta thought it was a rumor, but when he heard that they were going to fight the Sand Ninja today, Yuta didn't care so much. If Tsunade had any accident, Yuta would feel bad. After all, Tsunade has become his woman, and there is a possibility that she is pregnant with his child. He can't just watch them get into trouble. So after Yushin arranged the defense of the military camp, he immediately used electromagnetic teleportation to rush over quickly, just in time to see Chiyo, that crazy woman, playing with self-destruction. But Tsunade rushed over regardless. Why are you so reckless? Don't you know you are pregnant? Yushin blamed Tsunade with a lack of confidence. After hearing Yushin's questioning, Tsunade was not angry, but raised her mouth. This bastard still cares about me. He is not so conscienceless. Why are you here when you haven't answered me yet? Aren't you afraid that the old guys of the third generation will charge you with desertion and desertion? Tsunade didn't intend to let Yushin go. Humph. You made me have to fight on the battlefield while pregnant. What's wrong with making things difficult for you? Tsunade felt a little resentful. At this time, the people who were detaining prisoners of war and cleaning the battlefield also discovered the strange atmosphere between Yushin and Tsunade. Hiss. Could it be that Lord Yuta also likes Lady Tsunade and came to question her after hearing that she was pregnant with Lord Hatekisakumo's child? Hearing the ninja's inference, several people nearby also took a breath of cold air. Do you think that when Lord Hatekisakumo goes over, will he fight with Lord Yuta? Who is more powerful between them? And the sand ninja they were escorting also perked up a little at this time and pricked up their ears to listen to the gossip of the three of Yuta. Anyway, they had already lost the battle and Konoha could not kill them, so they simply discussed boldly with the ninjas who escorted them. It shouldn't be. I heard that Yuta is already married and has more than a dozen children. Even if he has ideas about Tsunade, he should consider the impact, right? A sand ninja also spoke up at this time, and at the same time he was a little excited, because the management of the sand village was strict and the class was clear, and they, the lower level ninjas, would never dare to discuss the affairs of the upper level in public. But now, hearing that the Konoha ninjas were discussing their gossip not far from Yuta, they couldn't help but speak up. He thought he would be reprimanded, but after listening to his analysis, the Konoha ninja escorting him nodded in agreement. That's true. I didn't expect you to be so smart. This made the sand ninja confused. Are all Konoha ninjas so bold? Please subscribe. Chapter 91 Tsunade. Tell me, which man is so bold? After Hatekisakumo and Ibizo agreed on the terms of surrender, they sent the news back to the village. Tsunade was sent back by Hatekisakumo to report to the third Hokage in person because of her pregnancy. Yuta also returned to the Land of Rain after the matter was over. After all, Hanzo was still there. In the Hokage's office, the third Hokage had no objection after reading the terms negotiated by Hatekisakumo and the Sand Ninja. In order to end the war as soon as possible, his bottom line is already very low. As long as Konoha does not have to cede land or pay compensation, he can agree. If the war continues, Yuta's reputation may be higher than his, the Hokage, before the war is over. After reading the battle report, he held a cigarette in his mouth and looked at Tsunade, who was a little uneasy in front of him, with a strange look in his eyes, and his eyes occasionally looked at her slightly bulging belly. A trace of reminiscence appeared on his face. The little girl who followed him and threatened to become a Hokage was about to become a mother. He asked meaningfully, "Tell me, whose child is it?" After hearing the question from the third generation, Tsunade just lowered her head uncomfortably and said nothing. Is it really like the rumors say? The child in your belly is not Hatekisakumo's, right? The third generation asked tentatively. Tsunade was immediately annoyed. What nonsense are you talking about? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will beat you up. As for Tsunade's words to beat him up, let alone whether she can do it, Tsunade dares to really do it. The third generation immediately understood and couldn't help muttering in her heart, Yushin doesn't look that handsome. Why is he so popular with girls? Tsunade didn't want to stay in front of her teacher for too long. It was embarrassing for her to stay here with a bulging belly. So after she reported the details of the war with the Sand Ninja, she hurriedly left the Hokage's office. The third generation looked at Tsunade's back as she left, thinking to herself, it seems that I have to restrain Danzo and can't let him do whatever he wants. Otherwise, if Danzo angered Yushin, he might not be able to save Danzo's life. Then the third generation sorted out Yushin's network of relationships in Konoha in his mind. Suddenly, he found that except for the senior leaders of their generation, almost every family had some relationship with Yushin. It seems that I'm really old. The third generation was deeply impressed by Yushin's plan. With Konoha's victory after victory, the villagers' hearts were relieved a lot, and life returned to its previous peace. On the bustling streets, Tsunade walked home alone. Looking at the passers-by with smiles on their faces, Tsunade felt a little irritated inexplicably. How should I explain to grandma when I go back? She had a headache at this time. Tsunade smiled and greeted the passers-by who greeted her while slowly walking towards home. Suddenly, she saw Ziz's figure in the market. At this time, Zizzy seemed to be talking and laughing with an aunt selling vegetables. Tsunade was a little entangled. Should I go up and say hello? At this time, Zizzy, who had already bought the vegetables, looked up and looked around and found Tsunade wearing a ninja vest. Kiko smiled and waved at Tsunade. Tsunade is back. How was it at the front? Are you not injured? Hearing Kiko's caring greetings, Tsunade felt a little embarrassed. But Tsunade didn't know how to answer her question for a while. Should she tell her, I fought with the enemy and was not injured, but was injured by your husband? Since she was discovered, Tsunade couldn't escape. She could only bite the bullet and walk to Kiko. Tsunade forced a smile on her face. Kiko, are you buying vegetables? I haven't congratulated you yet. When you gave birth to the child, I was at the front and couldn't come back. Sorry. Kiko faced her bestie and waved her hand generously. What's the matter? You are doing big things. I just take care of the children at home. We should thank you for your hard work on the front. Otherwise, how can we have such a peaceful life now? The aunt selling vegetables also recognized Tsunade and nodded in agreement. Yes, yes, yes. If you hadn't defeated the enemy at the front, who knows how chaotic it would be now. Tsunade was worried at this time and didn't dare to stay any longer. After barely dealing with Kiko with a smile, he turned around and left in a hurry. Kiko looked at Tsunade's back as she walked away, and her eyes caught sight of her slightly bulging belly. Her eyes radiated gossip. Tsunade, this violent girl, has a boyfriend too? But she's so bold to get pregnant before marriage. Tsunade pushed open the door of her home, and as soon as she entered, she saw Noise and Minato and the others discussing something in the yard. Noise was speaking in front of them. Tsunade went up and listened carefully, and it turned out that Minato and the others were also of school age, and Noise was imparting his experience in school to them. Tsunade saw that Miruta and the other three were also there, so she could only greet them hastily. Because she felt guilty, she turned around and went to Mito's room. Tsunade risked it. Anyway, if she stuck her head out, she would get hurt, and if she hit her head, she would also get hurt. She also needed her grandmother to help her make a decision, otherwise she really didn't know how to face the Yuta family. You're back. You're so bold. As soon as she entered the house, she found Mito looking at her with a playful look. In fact, Mito had sensed Tsunade's situation when she just got home. At this time, Mito stared at Tsunade's slightly bulging belly, and her eyes were already invisible from laughing. Although she didn't know who the father of the child was, Tsunade could have her own child, and she had an explanation to Hashirama when she went to the underground. Tell me, are you going to hide it from me? I'm just an old woman, I won't say much. Mito was also very curious about the father of the child in Tsunade's belly, who is so bold that he dares to let Tsunade get pregnant before marriage. Tsunade blushed when Mito stared at her, rubbing her hands a little embarrassedly, and said softly with a red face, it's suitors, but I don't know what to do. After all, he is married. Mito was relieved after hearing this. Not only was she not unhappy at all, but she was slightly happy. Yuta's situation. How could Mito, who has super perception, hide it from him? The probing chakras floating around the village are exactly the same as Yuta's. It is obvious that Yushin has a new blood boundary, and it may even be a blood elimination. If Tsunade's child can inherit Yushin's blood boundary, then the hope of the Senju clan's rise will be even greater. After all, Yushin is already a married man, and it is impossible for him to take the child back to raise blatantly, right? So the child in Tsunade's belly will definitely inherit the surname of the Senju clan in the future. And for the sake of Tsunade and the child, if the Senju clan encounters any difficulties, Yushin will definitely not stand idly by. She waved her hand and asked Tsunade to sit beside her, patting her hand and whispering, don't worry, what Yushin does, that's his business. You don't have to worry about the child in your belly. Our family can still afford to raise 2 children. It's just a little wronged for you. Listening to Mito's comforting words, Tsunade was greatly relieved. She was afraid that her grandmother would blame her for ruining the reputation of the Senju clan. Since Mito had no objection, Tsunade stayed at home with peace of mind. As the days passed, Hatake Tsukumo also returned to Konoha with his troops. It announced that the war between Konoha and Sand Ninja was completely over. I have a fever. I'm not in a good condition. If there are any errors, Please leave a message and I will correct them. Please subscribe. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 92. Danzo, my great power is about to explode. At this time, Konoha's only opponents were the last land of earth and land of rain. As for the land of water, they had not yet digested the land of whirlpool, so there was no need to worry about them. Even if they were really crazy and attacked the land of fire, Konoha, which had already dealt with the land of lightning and the land of wind, could completely crush them. With the return of Hatake's Akumo, the third generation also had sufficient power in his hands. Then, he called Danzo to the office and looked at his old friend who was becoming more and more gloomy with some worry. He was really a little worried, really afraid that he would do something out of the ordinary. Danzo looked at the third generation staring at him all the time and didn't say what he was calling him for. He immediately said impatiently, "Monkey, what did you call me here for? You didn't call me here to see me, did you?" The third generation then remembered that there was something important that he hadn't said. He lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, and said meaningfully, "Don't target Yuta and his family anymore in the future, otherwise I may really not be able to protect you." Danzo was a little stunned after hearing what the third generation said, but looking at the third generation's concerned expression, he could only whisper, "I know." Then Danzo turned and left the Hokage's office. Looking at his old friend's desolate back, the third generation felt bad. But for his life's safety, the third generation could only do this now. I hope he can understand. Then he thought of the cause of death of Yuta's parents. The third generation had a headache again. In the eyes of ordinary people, killing one's parents is an irreconcilable hatred. What's more, Yuta already has the ability to take revenge. But think of what Danzo did at the beginning. In order to achieve his ulterior purpose, he arranged an extremely dangerous mission for Uchiha Kagami and Yuta's parents, and also leaked the information of the mission to the enemy, which the third generation didn't know at the time. At that time, he had just taken the position of Hokage. In order to win the support of Danzo, even if he found out the reason for the failure of the mission afterwards, he could only pretend that it didn't happen. But who could have thought? Yuta's talent would be so good, and he rose rapidly under the restrictions of himself and Danzo, and grew to the point where he could defeat Uchiha Madara. As the frontline troops returned one after another, the third generation felt that he could control the situation in Konoha. In order to curb Yushin's rising reputation, he transferred Yushin back from the Land of Rain, and asked Jiraiya to go to the Land of Rain, to command the troops there. In the heart of the third generation, Hanzo was already like a frightened bird. It was too late to hide from Konoha, so how could he take the initiative to attack the Konoha troops? He asked Jiraiya to go there, to accumulate some military merits for him. Since Yushin's reputation has become stronger and stronger, he wants his 3 apprentices to compete with Yushin with the advantage of numbers. But thinking of Tsunade's situation, now he can only put his hope on Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Yushin was also very happy after receiving the order. He was worried that the time for the pearl to realize was coming soon, and he was still thinking about how to go back. After all, with the return of the troops, the defense of Konoha has more than doubled compared to before. It is already difficult to sneak back again. At this time, the order from the third generation was just like someone wanted to sleep and someone brought him a pillow. So after Jiraiya arrived, Yuda happily completed the handover with him. Then he took Hisashi and hurriedly headed towards the village. On the way, Yuda found that Hisashi seemed to be in a low mood. Yuda asked in confusion, "Why? You can go back alive, but you are still not happy. Don't you want to go back with me?" No. Hisashi hurriedly denied, and then he said a little disappointedly, "I'm just worried that after I go back, I can no longer accept the guidance of Lord Yuda." When Yuda heard that Hisashi was worried about this, he laughed. "Haha, don't worry. After I go back, I will accept you as my apprentice. Then I will let you take back your own destiny." Hisashi raised his head excitedly, looked at Yuda, and asked in disbelief, "Really?" Yuda had been on the road before, and now he felt a little bored, so he decided to tease Hisashi. If you don't want to, then forget it. There was a little disappointment in his tone. Although Hisashi knew that Yuda was teasing him, he was also worried. What if Yuda really regretted it? So he quickly stopped in front of Yushin, sat on the ground, and bowed to Yushin solemnly. Master, please don't do this. Yushin looked at Hisashi's actions and said with a smile, you are really a smart guy. You are really good at taking advantage of the situation. Okay, I accept you. Get up. Hisashi was overjoyed when he heard what Yushin said. He bowed to Yushin again solemnly. Yes, master. Then he happily followed Yushin, and he was also very yearning for his future life. Finally, I can get rid of this damn cage. Hisashi thought excitedly. It took Yushin 2 days to bring Hisashi back to the village. As a commander, he had to report the specific situation of the front line to the Hokage first. So he asked Hisashi to go back and tell his family about his apprenticeship and let them prepare. After that, he walked towards the Hokage building alone. Ding, ding, ding. Maybe it was because the third generation transferred him back from the front line. Yushin knocked on the door politely this time. Come in. The third generation's gentle voice came from inside. Indeed, as the war progressed step by step, everyone knew that Konoha would definitely be the final winner of this war, and the third generation returned to his previous amiable appearance. After Yushin opened the door and went in, he found that Danzo was also sitting on the side. A glimmer of light in Yushin's eyes instantly shot towards Danzo. After discovering that the person who came in was Yushin, Danzo shouted before the third generation opened his mouth. Yushin, do you know your crime? You left the troops without permission and went to another place. What do you want to do? What if Hanzo launched an attack at that time? It would not be too much to sentence you to the crime of desertion. Hearing Danzo's reprimand, Yushin was not angry, but a barely perceptible smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. So Yushin ignored him at all, but stared at the third generation to see what he would say. After hearing Danzo's reprimand for Yushin, the third generation began to have a headache again. Didn't he tell him not to bother Yushin again? What's wrong with Danzo? Why did he agree to it at the beginning, but now he said such words to Yushin? Shut up. Yuta is the hero of the village, not a criminal. The Sander interrupted Danzo's words quickly. His tone was very stern. Then he comforted Yuta. Elder Danzo has been busy lately, so he is a little impatient. Yuta, don't take his words just now to heart. In fact, Danzo felt a little regretful after scolding Yuta. I don't know why. After seeing Yuta, he couldn't hold back his anger. It was as if a switch was turned on, and the negative emotions in his heart were instantly magnified, and he couldn't help but say what he said just now. In fact, it's not Danzo's fault. Ever since Yuta buried a miniature pyramid in the village, no matter where it is, every move in the village is under Yuta's surveillance. Therefore, Yuta already knew the cause of death of the original body's parents. In order to have a reason to attack Danzo, Yuta used his extraordinary mental power to invade Danzo's brain, instantly magnifying his negative emotions several times. It would be strange if he could hold back at this time. After all, Yuta gave him the key to unlock the power of the wilderness. Please subscribe. Chapter 93 Yushin's Methods. Ever since Danzo attacked his family, Yushin had no intention of letting him go. Coupled with the blood feud between his original parents, Yushin felt that Danzo could no longer stay. However, how can he get rid of Danzo openly? Yushin still has to think of a reason. After all, Danzo has a decades-old friendship with the third generation. The third generation, who values feelings the most, would never watch him attack Danzo for no reason. Even if Danzo did something very outrageous, the third generation would say, as long as I'm happy, no one can attack Danzo. It was because of his step-by-step indulgence that Danzo ended up in such a situation. Anyway, his old friend would not do anything to him, so why doesn't Danzo use all means to expand his strength? Yushin certainly cannot waste his strong mental power. In order to deal with Danzo, Yushin used an epiphany opportunity early on and realized a method of using mental power that can amplify a person's inner emotions several times. However, Yushin did not continue to guide him. He had gone too far. Even a fool would know that Danzo's abnormality was caused by Yushin. So after Yushin left a spiritual power seed in Danzo's brain, he did not take action again. As time goes by, this seed will make Danzo unable to control his inner desires and do things that he usually wants to do but dares not to do. With Danzo's ambition, Konoha must be very exciting by then. Danzo, go down and take a rest first. Don't tire yourself out. The third generation seemed to care about Danzo, but in fact he said it to Yushin, giving him the image that Danzo worked diligently for Konoha. Danzo stared at Yushin with cold eyes, as if he wanted to see through him. Don't leave yet. The third generation was afraid that Danzo would say something out of line again, so he asked him to go down quickly. Danzo ignored the third generation and continued to stare at Yushin. I know. After that, he turned around and left the office. Yushin knew that Danzo doubted him, but Yushin didn't care. He is no longer the little shrimp he used to be, who can be manipulated by him. Besides, even if Danzo knew that it was him who did it, what would it matter? He didn't use ninjutsu just now, but pure mental power, and he couldn't find out, no matter how hard he tried. After seeing Danzo go out, the third generation also looked at Yuda thoughtfully. The Sanei took a deep puff of cigarette, rubbed his forehead, and said to Yuda slowly, "You have worked hard too. Don't take to heart what Elder Danzo said just now. You are a hero of Konoha. This is undeniable. So I hope you can consider the overall situation, and don't do anything to hurt Konoha." In response to the Sandei's warning, Yuda smiled gently and nodded. "Don't worry. I won't do anything that will harm the interests of Konoha." After hearing Yuda's assurance, the Sandei nodded with satisfaction. "Okay. I guess you miss your family very much, too. Go back and spend more time with them." An imperceptible cold light flashed in Yuda's eyes. "Good guy. For the sake of that old bastard Danzo, you actually used my family to threaten me. It seems that, if you want to deal with Danzo, you have to consider the Sandei." However, there was no change on Yuda's face. He nodded gently. "I miss them too. I haven't seen them since those 4 guys were born." "Then I won't bother you, Lord Hokage." The Sandei looked at Yuda's leaving back expressionlessly. Under the deep gaze, it is unknown what is hidden. Yuda saw the Sandei's expression clearly. Yuda smiled disdainfully, as expected. In the Sandei's heart, personal feelings are always higher than the interests of Konoha, and he keeps saying that everything is for Konoha. Now, the fun begins. The Sandei did not notice that at the moment. When Yuda turned around, there was something under the floor of his office. "Lord Yuda, you are back. Wow. It's Lord Yuda. So handsome." As the troops from various places returned one after another, Yuda's deeds on the battlefield were also spread. Everyone knows that Yuda has made great contributions to the current situation of this war. So when everyone saw Yuda, they were very excited. Yuda smiled and greeted the villagers on the road, and finally returned home. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Zizi and the children welcoming him at the gate. "Our great hero is back." Zizi spoke first. Then Maruta and the other 5 came over, stood in front of Yuta, and looked at Yuta with admiration. Dad, you are so awesome. Now everyone says you are a hero. You turned the war situation around with your own strength. You are the new generation of ninja god." Maruta said to Yuta excitedly. "Of course. Dad is awesome." Kyoko also shouted proudly. Shingo is Kyoko's follower, nodding and agreeing with his sister. Although Jiro and Juto didn't say anything, their excited expressions also showed that they were also very excited at this time. Nono was beside Kyoko to help look after the 4 little ones, but the smile on her face showed that she was very happy at this time. As Yuta's deeds on the front line spread, the villagers became more polite to Yuta's family, especially Maruta and other children. As soon as they went out, they would be greeted with admiring eyes from their friends, which greatly satisfied their vanity. At the same time, the grandpas and aunts they met on the road would also stuff all kinds of snacks and toys into their hands, and then they would smile and praise them. Recently, Maruta and his friends are almost going crazy playing outside. If Yushin hadn't come back today, I'm afraid Kiko wouldn't be able to find them. Looking at the excited children, Yushin was filled with happiness. He went forward and hugged his lovely daughter, then patted the children's heads gently and tenderly. Okay. Daddy won't go out for a long time in the future, and will stay at home with you, okay? After hearing what Yushin said, the children jumped up excitedly. Great. Really? Even the calm Jiro looked at Yushin with expectant eyes. Of course. When did daddy break his promise? Oh. The children ran out excitedly and showed off to their friends. Yushin put down Enzi, looked at the figures of the children, shook his head and smiled, with tenderness on his face. At this time, only Kiko, Yushin, Nono and a few children were left at home. Yushin walked up to Nono, lowered his head, and touched her head with a smile. Thank you for your hard work. You are worthy of being the child that dad can trust the most. Nono felt the warmth on her head, and after hearing Yushin's praise, the smile on her face became even brighter. Yuta rubbed her head with his hands. Go play. Don't be too tired. But Nono didn't go out, but took the 4 quadruplets back to the house with 2 nannies, and sensibly left the space for the master and the father. Yuta and Kiko looked at each other quietly. At this time, Kiko couldn't help but shed tears. Yuta stepped forward and hugged her suddenly. Thank you for your hard work at home. Listening to Yuta's gentle comfort, Kiko cried even harder. The fever is worse today, and I'm in the hospital for observation. If there are errors, thank you for your support. Chapter 94, The Hyuga Family's Ambition. Perhaps because they knew that Yushin had not been home for a long time, no one came to disturb Yushin and her family for the rest of the day. After dinner in the evening, Kiko sent the children to bed. Then she cleaned up the dishes and said to Yushin, who was sitting there drinking tea, do you know? Tsunade came back some time ago and she is pregnant. She is too bold to get pregnant before marriage. I don't know which man can stand her temper. The speaker is unintentional, but the listener is intentional. After hearing Kiko's words, Yushin drank a sip of tea with a guilty conscience. Seeing that Kiko's expression did not change, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Kiko continued to say, everyone is saying that the child in Tsunade's belly is Hatake Tsukumo's. I wonder if it is true. Kiko cleaned up the dishes and walked towards Yushin while wiping her hands. Yushin could only laugh dryly. How should I know? My battlefield is staggered with this. But I don't think Hatake Tsukumo will do such a thing. Yushin felt that he needed to defend Hatake Tsukumo. Otherwise how would he find a wife in the future? If Hatake Tsukumo's wife is gone, what will Kazuje do? TSK. Kiko rolled her eyes at Yushin and said disdainfully, I don't know what you men are thinking. Don't look at Hatake Tsukumo, who always behaves honestly. He has a lot of tricks in his heart. Yushin looked at Kiko's look, as if she was sure that Hatake Tsukumo was a scumbag, and didn't know how to defend Hatake Tsukumo, so he could only remain silent. What? Am I wrong? Seeing that Yushin seemed to disagree with her opinion, Kiko was a little dissatisfied. Yes. Yes. You are right. Seeing Kiko's relentless look, Yushin, who had a guilty conscience, could only give in. Seeing Yushin admit defeat, Kiko nodded with satisfaction. You said that after Lord Mito knew about this, he didn't make trouble for Hatake Tsukumo. It's very strange. Could it be that Tsunade was allowed to give birth to the child without knowing the truth? Kiko stared at Yushin, making Yushin even more uneasy. Yuda pretended to be calm and explained, maybe Lord Mito has other plans? I hope so. Kiko said with a hint of meaning. Yuda was even more worried. Could it be that Kiko knew something? Yuda was well aware of Kiko's intelligence. When Meruta and the others were just born, he did not hide the changes in himself from Kiko. Yuda was relieved when he saw Kiko turned around to prepare hot water. Yuda was more frightened facing Kiko at this time than fighting with Uchiha Madara. No words were spoken that night. Early the next morning, the door of Yuda's house was knocked. Pa. Excuse me, who is it? After hearing the knock on the door, Kiko put down the kitchen utensils in her hand and asked the door. Really? Knocking on the door so early in the morning? Although Kiko complained a little in her heart, she still told Nono, who was helping to make breakfast, intending to see who was knocking on the door so early in the morning. Excuse me, is Lord Yuda at home? The Hyuga clan is here to visit. A strange voice sounded outside the door. When Suzuki opened the door, she saw a Hyuga clan member in his 30s standing respectfully outside the door. Mrs. Yuta. Excuse me. The man greeted Suzuki respectfully after seeing her come out. Suzuki looked at the Hyuga clan member in confusion, wondering why he came to see Yuta so early in the morning, but she didn't ask and politely invited him in. At this time, Yuta had also finished washing up, and when she saw Suzuki bring in a Hyuga clan member, she understood the man's intention. Lord Yuta. Excuse me. After seeing Yuta, the man bowed slightly. Then he took out an invitation and handed it over. After hearing the report from Master Hisashi yesterday, the head of the family felt very honored that Master Yuta had chosen him, so he sent me to invite you to the Hyuga family to discuss Master Hisashi's apprenticeship. Yuta opened the invitation and took a look. The neat handwriting on it came into view, which showed that the Hyuga clan still attached great importance to this apprenticeship. Nonsense. How could they not attach importance to it? The Hyuga clan is one of the 3 major ninja clans in Konoha, but it has always been awkward. Whether it is a Senju or Uchiha, there are cage-level strongmen in every generation. But since the Hyuga Tenin, there has been no cage-level strongman in the Hyuga clan. Although their Byakugan can play a big role in the war, without a strong man in charge, the Hyuga clan, which has just come out of the warring states period, lacks a sense of security. This is also the reason why they have always been low-key. They dare not speak loudly without strength. So when they heard that Yushin planned to accept Hisashi as a disciple, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan hurriedly summoned the elders of the clan to discuss. Who is Yushin? He is known as the #1 master in the ninja world. Since he defeated Uchiha Madara, he has been hailed as the new generation of ninja god. In the end, they all felt that this matter must be taken seriously, otherwise Yushin would be unhappy. What if he regrets it? In order to implement this matter as soon as possible, they sent someone to deliver the invitation early in the morning. After reading it, Yushin put away the invitation and said to the Hyuga clan member, "Please tell the Hyuga clan leader that I will visit on time. Then I won't bother you anymore, Master Yushin. Goodbye." After saying that, he hurried away and went back to report. Suzuki didn't say anything until the man walked out of the door, then looked at Yushin in confusion. "Why do you suddenly plan to accept someone from the Hyuga clan as your apprentice? I forgot to tell you last night. It's mainly because I like that little guy," Yushin replied with a smile. Suzuki rolled his eyes at him. "Do you think I will believe it? Tell me, what's going on?" Alas. Yushin sighed. "Tell the children to be careful recently. Maybe someone is eyeing our family." "Is it from the village?" "Not all of them. There are also spies from other villages." As soon as Yushin returned home, he found several unfamiliar faces wandering around his home. He didn't need to think about it to know that the ability he showed had attracted the attention of others. But Yushin couldn't do anything about it. Even if he dealt with this group, there would be others waiting behind them, so he could only tell Suzuki to tell the children to be careful when going out. As for his home, Yuta had already set up a barrier. As long as the barrier is opened, it will be impossible for a cage-level strongman to attack in a short time. Then you haven't told me why you want to accept the little brat of the Hyuga clan as your apprentice? Is it related to these? Yuta looked at Suzuki seriously. "Now my strength can be said to be the strongest, but the 3rd generation and others are more wary of me. Especially Danzo. He has been suppressing me. Since my ability was exposed, it is inevitable that he will attack Meruta and others." Yuta slowed down. "So we need more allies." After listening to Suzuki, he also thought seriously. "Are you afraid that the 3rd generation will favor Danzo? Is the Hyuga clan also in the plan?" Yuta nodded, looked at the Hokage building with deep eyes, and said meaningfully, "The wind is going to blow." After hearing this, Suzuki held Yuta's hand and looked at him firmly. "I will accompany you, no matter who it is." Yuta looked at Suzuki affectionately and felt even more guilty. Since the two met, Suzuki has supported him unconditionally, but he has failed Suzuki's trust. Recommend books. Chapter 95 Yushin, don't think too much. After lunch, Yushin took the invitation to the Hyuga clan. When Yushin arrived, someone was already there to greet him. "Master Yushin, the head of the family and the elders are waiting in the reception room. Please follow me." A Hyuga clan member greeted Yushin politely after seeing him. Yushin smiled and nodded. "You're welcome." Then he followed him into the Hyuga clan's territory. He looked around and found that the architectural style of the Hyuga clan's territory was ancient and rigid, which just fits the image of the Hyuga clan's stubbornness and rigidity. Because in terms of abiding by the inheritance, I'm afraid no other clan can compare with the Hyuga clan. Let's not talk about anything else. Just talk about the system of the bird in the cage and the main family and the branch family. It seems that there is no semicolon in the ninja world except the Hyuga clan, right? Of course, there is the original intention of protecting the Byakugan, but as time goes by, this system has become a means for the main family to enslave the branch family. As soon as he entered the reception room, he found that except for Hisashi, the patriarch and the elders of the main family of the Hyuga clan were sitting inside. Clan leader, elders, Lord Yuda is here. The Hyuga clan member who brought Yuda in reported respectfully and left the reception room. The Hyuga clan has a strict hierarchy. Except for Hisashi, the person involved, all the people present are high-ranking members of the clan. He, a member of a branch family, has no right to stand here. Sir Yuda, welcome to the Hyuga family. The clan leader of the Hyuga clan first politely welcomed Yuda. Then he invited Yuda to sit down in the guest seat, and a maid brought tea. Yuda was not used to the traditional kneeling posture, but the guest followed the host's wishes, so he had to bite the bullet and sit down. At this time, Yuda found that some of them looked at him with contempt after seeing his unnatural movements. Yuda was unhappy, but in order to solve the problem of Hisashi being a bird in a cage, Yuda injured it. Sir Yuta, it is an honor for our Hyuga clan that a strong man like you can take a fancy to Hisashi. We would like to thank Sir Yuta again. The Hyuga clan leader bowed to Yuta solemnly. After all, Yuta's teaching of Hisashi is the key to whether their Hyuga clan can rise. This ceremony also means that from now on, Hisashi's fate is in Yuta's hands. This is not only the expectation of a clan leader, but also the last care of a father for his child. After finding that no one objected, Yuta nodded with satisfaction. He found that the Hyuga clan was not so inflexible. At least now the Hyuga clan can give Hisashi to him with full responsibility, which means that Yuta will be freed from Hisashi's cage in the future, and the Hyuga clan will not cause trouble for Hisashi. Don't worry, I will do my best to train Hisashi. As for what level he can reach in the end, it depends on his future efforts. Yuta was also happy to give the Hyuga clan a face, and at this time he also promised them. Hisashi excitedly stepped forward and bowed solemnly to his father first, which meant that he would not forget the family's training. Then he bowed to Yuta again, then picked up the tea brought by the maid and respectfully served it to Yuta. Yuta took a sip of the tea and put it on the table. Alright, get up, Yuta said gently to Hisashi who was kneeling on the ground. After Hisashi stood up, he stood behind Yuta obediently, indicating that he was officially Yuta's disciple from now on. Seeing that the apprenticeship ceremony was over, the atmosphere in the reception room became lively. Although the Hyuga clan has strict family rules, they saw the hope of the families rise at this time, so they didn't care about the family rules. The Hyuga clan was looking forward to having a strong man in the family, and they were almost like a husband waiting stone. Now they saw hope. At once, everyone came forward to congratulate Yuta and the clan leader. The Hyuga clan leader was also proud at this time. After all, Hisashi was his son no matter what. Although due to tradition, he had to be assigned to the branch family and a bird in a cage was engraved. But this does not mean that he does not want Hisashi to live a better life in the future. Now that Hisashi has been separated from the family to a certain extent, as long as Yuda can free him from the caged bird, the old stubborn people in the family will have no choice but to acquiesce for Yuda's sake. Just when everyone was in high spirits, a sudden voice sounded. Clan leader, isn't it a bit inappropriate to let Hisashi worship Mr. Yuda as his master? After all, the Hyuga clan all fight with the Byakugan and Jujutsu palm techniques, and Mr. Yuda is not good at these. The living room suddenly became quiet, and everyone looked at the person who was speaking, and found that it was the clan leader of the branch family. At this time, the clan leader of the Hyuga branch family was very jealous. Why? Why can Hisashi have the hope of escaping from the caged bird, while he has to be controlled by the caged bird for generations? Just because he is the clan leader's son? Since you have been assigned to the branch family, you should accept your fate, and stay in the branch family obediently. Yuda also turned his head to look at the person who was speaking. Wasn't it the one who laughed at him just now? What a coincidence. Yuda didn't intend to care about it, but since the other person came to his door, why should he be polite? Shut up. Is it your place as a branch family to intervene in the affairs of the main family? Why don't you apologize to Lord Yushin? If Yushin was present, the Hyuga clan leader might not be able to resist using the caged bird tactic. We finally see the hope of the family's rise, and Hisashi also has the opportunity to escape from the caged bird. If you ruin it, you will be doomed. Everyone looked at Yushin's expression worriedly, afraid that he would return in a rage. After all, although the apprenticeship ceremony was held, Yushin had not yet held the disciple-taking ceremony. If Yushin returned in a rage at this time, they would have no choice. Then the high-level leaders of the Hyuga clan looked at the patriarch of the branch family with angry eyes, as if they were going to eat him alive. But he still looked at Yaoshin stubbornly, with disdain in his eyes as if mocking Yaoshin. What do you know about soft fist? If you don't understand, don't meddle in other people's business here. Hisashi should just stay in the branch family. Yaoshin understood his thoughts, and not only was he not angry, but he smiled and asked, "Oh, you seem to be very confident in your soft fist? Of course. At least it's much better than you, an outsider." The head of the branch family replied proudly. He is neither the son of the previous head of the clan, nor the descendant of an elder. He was able to become the head of the branch family because he fought for it with his strength. If it weren't for the damn bird in the cage, he believed that no one in Hyuga would be his opponent. That's perfect. I also have a set of boxing similar to soft fist, and it's just right for me to spar with you and see if I have the ability to be Hisashi's master. Yaoshin planned to take the opportunity to teach this man a lesson, otherwise no one would dare to shout in front of him. "Sir Yushin." Forget it. When the senior officials heard that Yushin was going to use a boxing technique similar to the soft fist to spar with the patriarch of the branch family, they hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Although Yushin is very strong, in their hearts, the soft fist is the most powerful boxing technique, and Yushin is definitely not a match for the patriarch of the branch family with just his boxing technique. If Yushin loses, will Hisashi still want to become his disciple? Looking at the eager expression of the branch family patriarch and the worried look of others, Yushin smiled calmly. "Don't think too much. If I don't let you see my strength clearly, will you trust Hisashi to me? Then please follow me, Sir Yushin." Seeing Yushin's determined look, the Hyuga clan leader could only invite Yushin and the patriarch of the branch family to the martial arts training ground. On the way, he also glared at the patriarch of the branch family obscurely. Obviously, this matter is not over. Please subscribe. Chapter 96 Takai shocks Hinata. When everyone arrived at the training ground, they found that Hayashi's brother, Hayashi, was already training there. He was seen hitting the wooden stake fiercely, and the bulging meridians in his eye sockets indicated that he had opened his white eyes. Bang, bang, bang. Hayashi's hands had already left after images, and the wooden stake was shaken left and right by his hits, and there were still some bloodstains on it, which showed the intensity of Hayashi's training. "Father." Seeing a group of people coming, Hayashi stopped training and respectfully saluted the clan leader. The Hyuga clan leader looked at this son who made him proud. He was expressionless at this time, as if he was stimulated by something. How could Hayashi's thoughts be hidden from him who was so old and cunning? When he heard that Hayashi had taken Yuda as his master, although Hayashi was happy for his younger brother, the pride of being the heir to the clan leader made him feel that he could not fall behind his younger brother. However, he knew the upper limit of the Hyuga clan and could not ensure that he would be stronger than his younger brother in the future, so he could only use training to paralyze himself. "Hayashi, this is Lord Yuta. He is also Hisashi's master. Why don't you say hello to Lord Yuta?" The Hyuga clan leader introduced Yuta to Hisashi. Hisashi looked at Yuta's young and gentle face. If he hadn't been prepared, he wouldn't have believed that Yuta, who was called the new generation of ninja god, would be so young. He was a little jealous of his brother and hated why he was not the one who followed Yuta to the battle. "Hello, Lord Yuta." Although he felt a little awkward, Hayashi still bowed respectfully to Yuta. "Lord Yuta, this is my son Hayashi." Although he said son, his face was full of pride. Yuta looked at Hayashi carefully and muttered to himself, "Is this the father of the crown princess?" If there was no caged bird on his head, he would look exactly like Hisashi. Sure enough, he is talented. Lord Hyuga is so lucky, Yuta praised. The smile on the face of Lord Hyuga became brighter, and at the same time, it was less false. It may be a common problem for parents. When they hear others praise their children, they will be happy from the bottom of their hearts. Hey, do you want to compete or not? If you are afraid, just say it directly, don't delay time here. But someone was unhappy at this time. By the way, I still have to compete with you, Yushin said nonchalantly. Seeing that Yushin didn't take him seriously, the head of the branch family was almost furious. He thought secretly in his heart, I admit that I'm not as strong as you, but this time it is a boxing competition. I will embarrass you later. So Yushin, do you really want to compete with him? The head of the Hyuga clan was still a little worried. Haha. Yushin smiled contemptuously, and silence was more powerful at this time. Okay then. The head of the Hyuga clan sighed. Then he turned his head and said to the head of the branch family, you take care of yourself. Looking at the two people on the field, the senior members of the Hyuga clan were full of curiosity. What gave Yushin the confidence? The patriarch of the branch family looked at Yushin standing in a loose manner, and a grim smile flashed across his face. Yushin, be careful. There was no referee for this competition. Everyone was an adult and knew how to use their moves. The patriarch of the branch family raised his hands and shouted, Beian, open. The moment he opened his Beian, the patriarch of the branch family was frightened by the chakra in Yushin's body and couldn't help but exclaimed. Everyone else looked over curiously, not knowing what happened. The patriarch of the branch family couldn't say that he was frightened by Yushin's chakra, so he could only bite the bullet and continue. Looking at Yushin, who was still standing there casually, his eyes became cautious. Bagua, 72 palms. He slightly tilted his body, stretched his hands on both sides, kicked his legs, and rushed directly towards Yushin. Just when his attack was about to fall on Yushin, Yushin moved. Yushin took a half step back with his left leg, drew a circle in front of him with his right hand, and then followed with his left hand, pulling the attack of the patriarch of the branch family to both sides. At this time, the branch family leader felt that his attack was out of control, and his body began to become unstable. However, under the traction of Yaoshin, he continued to move closer to Yaoshin uncontrollably. At this time, his attack was already wide open. At this time, the attack of the branch family leader had returned to his chest under the traction of Yaoshin. Yaoshin took a step forward, pulled back his hands and slapped the branch family leader's elbows, and his attack was instantly returned to himself. Because of the hatred, the branch family leader used all his strength at the beginning. At this time, his attack fell on himself, and he was hit without warning. Puff. He took a few steps back, staggered and sat on the ground, spitting out a large mouthful of blood. The branch family leader looked at Yaoshin, who was still standing there calmly, in horror. He was shocked, and couldn't believe that he couldn't even hold on for a single move. What happened just now? Why did he attack me? Because the battle ended too quickly. It was over before everyone could react. So most people didn't see how the branch family leader was defeated. Only the Hyuga clan leader, who had been paying attention to Yushin, saw what happened clearly, but he also looked at Yushin with a look of surprise at this time, and couldn't believe that his family's soft fist was broken by Yushin so easily. He didn't care about anything else at this time, and hurried to Yushin, and asked in surprise, Mr. Yushin, what was that just now? It's a kind of boxing that I created myself, not worth mentioning, Yushin said. The corners of the Hyuga clan leader's mouth twitched. What do you mean by not worth mentioning? If you say it's not worth mentioning, then what is my family's soft fist? At this time, other people will also come to their senses, and they will forget about the branch clan leader sitting on the ground. Instead, they look at Yushin eagerly, as if they have seen some rare treasures. Everyone hugged Yushin, and returned to the living room. The Hyuga clan leader spoke first. Mr. Yushin just said that it was a boxing method you created yourself. Will you teach it to his or she in the future? He couldn't help but be anxious. If his soft fist was easily broken like this, if he didn't understand it, he would suffer a great loss if he encountered it in the future. Just now, Yushin used the national martial art Teikai from his previous life. Although he was not a martial artist in his previous life, he had learned some Teikai in physical education class in college. With his excellent comprehension and physical fitness, after several years of exploration, he localized Teikai. The power is already extraordinary. In addition, Teikai has always emphasized intention rather than form. As long as it is practiced to a certain level, it can indeed achieve the effect of a small force moving a large object. This makes up for the shortcoming of the Hyuga clan's lack of group attack. Yushin nodded gently. Yes, I will pass this boxing method to my apprentices in the future, and Hisashi will naturally be among them. Although it is not taught to Hisashi alone, Hisashi can also learn it in the future, and the Hyuga clan leader can accept it. Then he saw the eager eyes of his eldest son, gritted his teeth, and walked to Yushin, and bowed to him solemnly. Please, Mr. Yushin, accept Hayashi as well. Ah. Everyone else was shocked by the clan leader's request. Rizu is no worse than Rizu. He is the future clan leader. According to the rules, he must receive the most authentic soft fist training. How can he learn other boxing from outsiders? No. One of the elders stopped him flatly. Although Lord Yushin's boxing is exquisite, the young clan leader must not take outsiders as his teachers. Please subscribe. Chapter 97. Miruta awakens magnetic escape. Yushin did not accept Hayashi as his apprentice in the end. On the one hand, it was indeed as the elder said, Hayashi and Hisashi were different. On the other hand, it can be seen from the original work that Hayashi put the interests of the family first. If Yushin accepted him as his apprentice, it was inevitable that his own secrets would be revealed by him. But in the end, Yushin agreed to let Hisashi teach Teikai to Hayashi. This also made the Hyuga clan leader grateful to Yushin. After all, a ninjutsu that can be compared with the soft fist, Yushin not only taught Hisashi, but also let Hayashi learn, which can greatly enrich their means of attack. Although he failed to become Yushin's apprentice, he was not so disappointed that he could learn that set of boxing. The next day, Hisashi came to Yushin's house early. Hisashi, why are you here? Naoki, who was following Kushina behind him, asked in surprise after seeing Hisashi. Kushina also looked at Hisashi curiously. Why does this guy always roll his eyes when he looks at people? It's so rude. Although she had been in Konoha for a while, she usually went back and forth between the Senju clan and the Yuta family. In addition, the people of the Hyuga clan rarely went out, so it was the first time she saw the Byakugan. It's Noace. I just became a disciple of Master Yuta yesterday, so please take care of me in the future. What? You also became a disciple? Noace looked around Hisashi. TSK. Then you have to call me senior brother from now on. Haha. Although Noace's behavior was a little calmer, his personality was still very lively. Hisashi was full of black lines, imagining that he would call Noace senior brother in the future, and Noace would be so proud, thinking in his heart whether he should find an opportunity to snatch his position as senior brother. Noace. You are here. Why don't you come in? Noace was still planning to continue to act like a senior brother, but after hearing that voice, he immediately became serious. Nono. Good morning. Noace saw Nono coming out. His face was a little shy. Hisashi felt that something was wrong, and glanced back and forth between the two with a gossipy look. Naoki instantly withered, looking at Hisashi begging for mercy. He had been classmates with Nono and Hisashi, but later the Hisashi brothers graduated early, so they were more familiar with each other. Hisashi looked at Naoki with a little pride, and the deep meaning in it was self-evident. Naoki could only nod his head, because he had just gotten carried away. Following Nono into the Yuta family, Naoki was already very familiar with the place, so he seemed very casual. But it was Hisashi's first time to the Yuta family, and he found that the feeling here was completely different from his own home. If the Hyuga clan gave people a solemn and serious feeling, then the Yuta family gave people a warm and elegant feeling. This is like a place where a family lives. Hisashi thought to himself. Dad, who is this? Seeing Hisashi following Nono, several children looked at him curiously, and Miruta couldn't help but ask. When Nono brought them to the training ground, Yuta was already warming up with several children, and even Minato had arrived. At the edge of the training ground, Kyoko and Shingo were also watching them train. After all, they are almost 3 years old, and they are about to start formal training. So Yuta also brought them over to get familiar with each other. Seeing Hisashi, Yuta waved his hand, and asked Hisashi to stand next to him. Then he said to the children, okay, stop for a moment. Now I will introduce you to your new companions. Then he pointed at Hisashi and said, this is my new apprentice yesterday. He is Hisashi from the Hyuga clan. Everyone must take care of each other in the future. After the introduction, Yuda asked Hisashi to stand back in the team, and then said to them seriously, I haven't trained with you for a long time, so I don't know your current strength. So in order to better understand your situation, we will have a one-on-one actual battle this morning. You all have to show your true strength. Okay, you can discuss your opponents. As soon as Yuda finished speaking, Naoki couldn't help but jump out first. Miruta, let's have a good fight today. Oh, come on. Miruta also responded excitedly. The others made way for the two of them and formed a circle to watch the two people's competition. Although Miruta had the upper hand in the fight with Rope Tree before, it was because he had been transformed by the mysterious beads for a long time, and all indicators had reached the extreme of his current age. But as time went on, Rope Tree's transformation slowly caught up. He has the purest blood of the Senju clan, and his upper limit is much higher than Miruta and the others, plus he is a few years older than Miruta. So at this time, Rope Tree is suppressing Miruta. Damn. How come Rope Tree is getting stronger and stronger? Facing Rope Tree's powerful attack, Miruta felt very depressed. The more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. In order not to embarrass himself in front of his father and friends, he used his chakra to the extreme, but he was still no match for Rope Tree. With Miruta's slightly childish roar, Yushin suddenly felt something was wrong. Yushin noticed that the two chakras of Earth and Wind in Miruta's body were running at a very fast speed, and his magnetic escape bloodline limit began to awaken. Yushin was about to step forward to stop him, but turned his head and thought, and stopped. He sensed the third generation's prying eyes coming from the void. Haha. He really cares about me, Yushin thought with a hint of sarcasm. Stopping Miruta at this time would only make the third generation more suspicious, and he already had the strength to be fearless at this time. So he didn't plan to stop Miruta and see how the third generation would deal with it later. Dense black iron sand emerged from the ground like fireflies in the dark night, suspended in the air. Miruta looked at his hands and couldn't help getting excited. They already knew that they could awaken the magnetic escape bloodline limit, so Yushin taught them how to use magnetic escape a long time ago. But before, except for Jiro, he and Yuto had never been able to awaken magnetic escape, so they could only envy Jiro's sneaky training of magnetic escape. At this time, he also mastered magnetic escape and couldn't help but use it. Then he thought of his father's previous instructions and couldn't help but look at Yushin worriedly. Yushin stood on the training ground with his chest crossed, nodded at him, and said that he could use magnetic escape to fight. After getting Yushin's approval, Yushin felt relieved. He shouted to Naoki, Naoki, be careful. The battle has just begun. What is this? Except for the Yuta family, who had expected it, Minato and Hisashi looked at the iron sand floating on the ground in surprise, and asked in surprise. Seeing that his father did not stop his eldest brother, Jiro explained to them, this is the magnetic escaping bloodline of our Yuta family. The eldest brother should have just awakened. Magnetic escaping bloodline? Minato and Hisashi looked at Jiro in surprise. You said that is the bloodline of your Yuta family, do you have it too? Hisashi looked at Jiro and asked. Jiro did not answer directly. He looked at Hisashi with a smile, then stretched out his right hand, and saw that a small part of the iron sand floating in the air gathered towards Jiro's palm, and a kune made of iron sand appeared in Jiro's hand in a moment. This. Hisashi and Minato didn't know what to say at this time, especially Minato. He looked at the kune in Jiro's hand with envy, and suddenly realized that he was the only one who didn't have special abilities here. Oh, and there is also Nono. The author had a fever a few days ago, and was dizzy while typing. Please forgive me for any inaccuracies. Chapter 98. Danzo's primordial power can no longer be held back. What? Hokage's office. The third generation had heard that Yuta accepted Hisashi as his apprentice yesterday, and wanted to see how Yuta taught Hisashi. After all, the Hyuga clan has always used soft fists as its main means of combat. Although Yuta's physical skills are good, they are not suitable for the Hyuga clan. However, what happened next was beyond his expectations. Yuta did not instruct Hisashi in training at the beginning, but let several children fight one-on-one. When he saw Naoki beating Miruta, the third generation showed an expression of as expected. After all, in his heart, Naoki was several years older than Miruta, and he was about to graduate from the ninja school. Naoki, who carried the blood of 1,000 hands, should be able to beat Miruta, who was several years younger than him. Originally, he thought there was nothing to see and planned to check the situation at the women's bathhouse to see if there were spies from other villages going there to make trouble. But what happened next scared him. Yuta's blood boundary can actually be stably inherited through blood. After seeing Miruta awaken the magnetic escape, the third generation couldn't help but exclaimed in his heart. But it's not over yet. When he saw the kunai made of iron sand in Jiro's hand, the third generation couldn't hold it anymore. It seems that Yuta's blood boundary can not only be inherited through blood, but also very easy to awaken. Is another ninja clan going to rise in Konoha? The third generation couldn't help but ask in his heart. To be honest, the third generation envied Yuta at this time. Although he was proficient in 5 kinds of ninjutsu, he had no idea how to form a blood boundary. Decades of exploration ended in failure. Because the war was not over at this time, Danzo was also helping the third generation to handle government affairs in the office. After hearing the third generation's exclamation, he looked up at the third generation. When he saw the scene in the crystal ball clearly, Danzo's eyes shrank, and the jealousy and desire for power in his heart could no longer be suppressed. Why? Why can that little bastard Yuta, who has no recognition of Konoha, have a blood boundary and pass it on through blood? Danzo thought unwillingly. He has worked diligently for Konoha for most of his life, but he can't even sit in the position of Hokage. No. This can't go on. Danzo's current power is about to be suppressed. However, seeing the third generation sitting in the position of Hokage, Danzo tried hard to suppress the flames of jealousy in his heart and pretended to continue to handle government affairs as if nothing had happened. However, his mind was not on government affairs at this time, but on how to increase his strength. After all, the hatred between him and Yuta could not be eliminated so easily unless one of them died completely. But he thought about it and couldn't think of any good ideas for a while. After all, his previous plan to reproduce the wood release with hope had completely failed, and the Uchiha clan had not yet reached the late stage, the level of anger between humans and gods. But at this time, he felt that he couldn't wait any longer. He is already over 40 years old. If the previous plan is followed, even if the third Hokage retires at the age of 50, how many years can he serve as Hokage? The more Danzo thought about it, the more annoyed he became. He couldn't help but slap the pen on the desk in front of him. The third Hokage was also awakened by the noise and looked at Danzo curiously. Danzo pretended to be calm and put away the documents on the desk. He stood up and said to the third Hokage, "I feel a little unwell. Let's stop here today." Then he walked out of the Hokage's office. The third Hokage raised his hand to stop him, but opened his mouth and didn't say anything in the end. He knew what his old friend was thinking. At this time, he was probably a little impatient when he saw the rise of the Yuta family. But let him try. Yuta's reputation is already very high. If his descendants are more talented, then the position of Hokage will be transferred from their line to Yuta's side. He thought it would be better to suppress Yuta appropriately. But then he thought of Yuta's strength and decided to pay more attention to his old friend's actions recently. If Danzo's operation failed, he would do whatever it takes to save his old friend's life. As long as he was still alive, he would have a chance to make a comeback. After returning to the route, Danzo smashed around in the office. After venting his frustration, he shouted to the door. "Send an order immediately. Let our combat personnel on the front line withdraw to the village immediately. There will be an important operation next." A voice without any emotion came from outside the door. Yes. Danzo found a slightly intact stool in the office and sat down, thinking about the next action in his mind. Seeing Yuta's strength growing day by day, Danzo also doubted his own talent. If I turn against Yuta at that time, will I really have to wait for capture? Danzo felt very unwilling. He stood up and looked at the direction of Yuta's house with a stern look. "Know yourself and the enemy. You can win every battle. Since I'm not your opponent in a head-on battle, then don't blame me for taking other measures." He felt that he should search for information about Yuta's ability as much as possible. Danzo recalled the silver-haired round-faced short figure in the crystal ball of the third Hokage. His eyes kept turning, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Yuta saw everything that happened in the Hokage's office and the route with his perception. Then he sneered in his heart. Haha. You can't bear it anymore? It's time to settle accounts thoroughly. But there's no rush. Let this fire burn a little more vigorously. That night, Yuta gathered Kiko and several children together and opened the barrier of the house to prevent the third Hokage from using the crystal ball to explore. What happened? Kiko sat down and looked at Yuta's slightly serious expression and asked worriedly. Yuta told Kiko about Miruta's awakening of the magnetic escape bloodline today and the reactions of the third Hokage and Anzo. After listening, Kiko stood up, stared at Yuta and asked, "Do you mean they will attack Miruta or Jiro?" Miruta and Jiro looked up at Yuta when they heard Kiko talking about the two of them. Yuta looked at the worried people and waved his hand. "Don't worry, I have a plan. The child will not be harmed at all. It's a good opportunity to solve all the troubles at once. Otherwise, people will always be thinking about you. It's not scary, but it's annoying." Suzuki stood up and asked without hesitation, "What do you need me to do?" "Don't worry now. Let's see what they do next. But we should also make some preparations now, otherwise it will be bad if we accidentally cause too much loss to the village." Please subscribe. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 99, Minato, in my heart you are the best. Late that night, Suzuki watched Yushin tinkering with something she didn't understand, and soon a rectangular palm-sized box appeared in Yushin's hand. Suzuki asked curiously, "Why aren't you sleeping so late?" Then she picked up the box that Yushin had assembled, looked it up and down, and still didn't understand what it was for. Without even raising his head, Yuta picked up some other strange things and continued to assemble them. While assembling, he explained to Kiko, "These are used to win the hearts of the people. If you want to live a quiet life in Konoha in the future, you can't rashly act against Danzo and others. You must first undermine their prestige in the hearts of the villagers. Only if we stand on the side of justice and win the support of the people can we offset the righteousness of the third generation. Otherwise, we will be ready to become the second Uchiha Madara in the future." Hearing her husband say that this thing is so important, Kiko hurriedly and carefully put down the box in her hand, returned to the bed, and asked Yuta, who was concentrating on his work, "Have things really come to this?" "Well, the third generation does not have the strength of the first generation, nor the skills of the second generation. In addition, there is a Danzo who will do anything for his own goals, and the third generation claims to be the most sentimental and will not watch us kill Danzo. So it's better to be careful." "Oh." Kiko sighed. It's not that she didn't know all this, but she was just a little uncomfortable. After Yushin assembled the parts on the table, he picked them up and checked them carefully. After finding no problems, he nodded with satisfaction. "Is it done?" Suzuki asked. "Yes. Next, we just have to wait for their actions." Suzuki looked at the trumpet-shaped thing on the table. Although she didn't know what it was used for, she didn't ask much. Soon it was time for the annual enlightenment. Like in previous years, Yushin's family, including Nono, sat around Yushin. Since fighting with Uchiha Madara, Yushin found that his chakra was not enough to support his reckless use of electromagnetic escape, and blood elimination was too chakra consuming. After careful consideration, Yushin decided to improve his yang escape. With the beginning of the enlightenment, Yushin's already strong body cells suddenly became active. Yushin suddenly seemed to have returned to the embryonic state and felt warm all around. The body seemed to have turned on a switch. Although Yushin's physical fitness was very strong before, the activity in the cells was only a little more than that of ordinary people. As the enlightenment deepened, the activity in Yushin's body cells became stronger and stronger. If Yushin's previous cells were compared to a stone, they were very powerful and strong, but they were dead after all. But at this time, Yushin's cells seemed to have consciousness and came alive, greedily absorbing the chakra that permeated the surroundings. Perhaps it was because Yushin himself had a deep understanding of Yang done before, so this time he understood it all at once. When Yushin opened his eyes, he found that it was not yet completely bright. He looked at Suzuki and several children who were still in enlightenment around him, and did not disturb them. Yushin carefully felt the changes in his body. Let's not talk about anything else first. Let's see how much his chakra has increased with the improvement of Yang done this time. Yushin began to refine chakra and immediately found the difference. If the chakra in his meridians before was a small river, then now it is a rushing river. Chakra is at least more than twice as much as before. The abundant chakra makes Yushin full of confidence in dealing with the next crisis. As the sun slowly rises, Zizi and several children wake up one after another. Looking at their surprised expressions, Yushin knew that their gains this time must be great. Seeing that they had all finished their epiphany, Yuta said to the children, "Okay, you guys go down first." Then, he gently said to Nono, "Nono, I'll trouble you with breakfast today. Your mother and I have something to discuss." Nono nodded obediently, and then he took Miruta and the others out. "What's the matter? Did Danzo take any action?" Yuta waved his hand and comforted, "No, I'm afraid he is afraid of my strength. He is still waiting to recruit all his subordinates before he starts to act." After hearing what Yuta said, Zizi felt relieved. "Then why did you let me stay?" Zizi was a little confused. Yuta looked at Kiko seriously and asked, "How is your water escape technique?" Hearing Yuta's question, Kiko said confidently, "I think except that my chakra is a little less than that of the second Hokage, my water escape technique is not inferior to his." "What? Is there anything I can do?" Yuta was very happy to hear Kiko's words, because the next plan would require a ninja who is proficient in water escape technique to cooperate. "That's good. If Danzo really attacks our family, we will need your cooperation at that time, otherwise it will be difficult to kill him completely at the lowest cost." "No problem, just leave it to me if you have anything," Kiko said confidently, clenching her fist. But then she asked worriedly, "Will the third Hokage really attack us for Danzo? What can we say about the third Hokage? He may really want to do good for Konoha, but when his feelings conflict with the interests of Konoha, he will definitely disregard the interests of Konoha for his own feelings. If they were not afraid of my strength, I'm afraid they would have already attacked us." After breakfast, Yuta brought a few children to the training ground and found that Minato had already started training there. "Minato, why are you here so early?" Miruta came forward and greeted Minato. After Minato saw Yuta and the others coming, he stopped training and showed a gentle and sunny smile on his face. "Hello, Teacher Yuta." "Good morning, Minato." Yuta was very satisfied with Minato. His talent and character were first class. With the arrival of Naoki and Kushina Hisashi, Yuta began to guide their training. During the break, Minato came to Yuta and asked frustratedly, "Teacher Yuta, am I useless?" Yuta looked at Minato gently. "Why do you say that?" Minato looked at Miruta and the others and said enviously, "Miruta and the others all have blood boundaries, and brother Naoki is also from the Senju clan. He is born with much more chakra than ordinary people, and Hisashi also has his Byakugan. Only I seem to be unable to do anything. I'm always the last one in every training, and I can't even beat a girl like Nono." Yuta also heard what Minato said and stepped forward to pat his head. "Minato, don't belittle yourself. In my eyes, you are the best among them." "Really?" A glimmer appeared in Minato's eyes. Of course. Yuta was very serious at this time. Yuta didn't say this casually, because no matter how powerful Miruta and the others are, they can't stand the fact that they don't have spatial talent. Since the second generation of Hokage developed the Flying Thunder God ninjutsu, for decades, only he and the later Minato have completed the practice, which shows how rare spatial talent is. Even if your ninjutsu is powerful, it is useless if you can't hit Minato. Hearing Yuda's words, Minato instantly became happy. In his heart, Yuda teacher would never lie. Chapter 100 Zizi, it's still a child. Just when Yuta was comforting Minato, he suddenly heard a cry of surprise from Miruta and the others. Yuta quickly sensed it and found that Miruta had summoned his summoned beast at some point. At this time, Kuretaro was no longer the little guy of about 5 meters. At this time, its body was about 10 meters long, but its chakra was much stronger than that of an ordinary Jonin. Yuta took Minato to see what was going on. "Master Yuta." Although Kuretaro's strength had improved greatly, he still respected Yuta as always. Yuta nodded and found that with the same body size, it was indeed much stronger than those wild earthworms at the beginning. At the beginning, those wild earthworms of about 10 meters were only at the level of Chunin. It seems that under the transformation of the beads, the potential of these earthworms has also been greatly improved. What were you doing just now? Yuta asked Miruta curiously. Dat. Kuretaro is so amazing. It can actually split into several smaller versions of itself, and they are all independent individuals. Miruta excitedly showed off to Yuta. Oh, isn't that the same as a slug? Yuta was a little excited. As long as the Earthworm clan can produce a person with the same ability as the slug, then combined with Ziz's medical ninjutsu, her strategic significance will be even greater. Moreover, the Earthworm clan can use ninjutsu, and their destructive power on the battlefield is much stronger than that of slugs. Seeing that Yuta had misunderstood, Kuretaro hurriedly explained, Yuta is not like that. Although we can split, it is not infinite. The most powerful Lord Komikora can only split into 10. Oh. Yuta was a little disappointed. But our clones can not only use ninjutsu, but also. Seeing Yuta's disappointed expression, Kuretaro hurriedly made amends. But before it finished speaking, bang, a burst of white smoke suddenly came out beside it. A woman in black, about 30 years old, appeared next to Kuretaro. Yuta could feel the chakra from it, which was the same as Kuretaro's, and knew that this was also a summoning beast of the Earthworm clan. Seeing the visitor, Kuretaro showed a frightened expression. Dad, why are you here? Hey. Hearing Kuretaro calling the visitor dad, everyone present, including Yushin, dropped their jaws to the ground. She was obviously a beautiful and cold big sister. Why did Kuretaro call her dad? The visitor glared at Kuretaro and scared Kuretaro so much that his body shrunk by 1 or 2 meters. Then the visitor knelt on one knee respectfully in front of Yushin, the third guardian of the Earthworm clan. Kuretaro greets Lord Yushin. Seeing that Yushin was still looking at him, or maybe her, curiously, Kuretaro explained, our Earthworm clan is hermaphrodite, although we still need to find another Earthworm to give birth to offspring, and then the 2 Earthworms will give birth to offspring at the same time. So the offspring we give birth, to call the other Earthworm dad. This is also to distinguish the bloodline. It can be like this. Several children were a little curious, and when they wanted to ask something else, they were driven aside by Yushin. Seeing that there were no outsiders around, the black earthworm turned cold and said to Kuretaro coldly, if it weren't for my clone to attach to you, would you have planned to dig out all the secrets of our Earthworm clan? As it said that, it didn't see any movement, but Kuretaro twisted on the ground in pain, hissing and low cries from its mouth. You sealed the other earthworms? Yushin thought that the black earthworm had launched some sealing ritual, but he carefully sensed it and found that there was no trace of any seal on Kuretaro. So he stopped him. It is also a child's mind. Don't be too strict. Yes, Lord Yushin. The black earthworm replied respectfully. Then it turned its head and sternly warned Kuretaro, who was suffering on the ground. Lord Yushin was generous this time. Next time, if you dare to speak without restraint, don't think about coming out in the future. Yes, Dad. Kuretaro said weakly. What's going on? Although Yushin did not find any traces of seals on Kuretaro, he did not believe that it would become like this for no reason. Master Yushin, since you arranged us to the clanland, we have not been there again. It is normal that we don't know. He glanced at Yushin with resentment. Yushin thought about it and said, it seems so. Since he arranged those mutant earthworms, because they were weak at the time and did not help him much, he forgot about them. If he could not see Kuretaro from time to time, Yushin would have almost forgotten that he had a summoned beast. Yushin, what happened just now? Miruta and the others came to me crying, saying that their Kuretaro was going to be killed by a bad guy. At this time, Zizi ran over in a hurry. Seeing the weak Kuretaro on the ground, he hurried forward to check it. He did not even notice the black earthworm standing next to him. Lord Zizi. Zizi may not have seen it, but it can't pretend that Zizi doesn't exist, because she is the mistress of their Earthworm clan. Zizi stood up after making sure that Kuretaro was fine. After hearing the greeting from the black earthworm, she realized that there was another person here. Oh, no, there was another earthworm. She is different from Yaoshin. Since she signed a spiritual contract with the Earthworm clan, she likes to visit them whenever she has time, so she is very familiar with the Earthworm clan. It's the Black Earthworm. Why did you come out? Did you teach Kuretaro a lesson just now? It's still a child. How could you be so heavy-handed? Yaoshin looked at the 10-meter-long Kuretaro with a frown on his face. Whose child is so big? You call it a child? It's too talkative. I'm considering changing a partner for Master Miruta in the future. Kuretaro should reflect on himself in the clan. The Black Earthworm was obviously still angry. No. Please give me another chance. I won't talk too much anymore. Kuretaro didn't care about the pain in his body anymore and cried and begged. Forget it. Let it go this time. I believe it will be cautious next time. It's still a child. Yushin said directly. Thank you, Lord Yushin. Kuretaro thanked Yushin with all his heart. Humph. Since Lord Yushin has spoken, I will let you go this time. There won't be a next time. Kuretaro warned Kuretaro. Yes. Kuretaro replied obediently. Why did you come out? Is there something wrong? Seeing that Kuretaro's problem was solved, Suzuki asked Kuretaro curiously. Since the Earthworm clan was signed by Yushin as a summoning beast, except for Miruta summoning Kuretaro from time to time, they have never come out again. Why did the Black Earthworm come out this time? The Black Earthworm looked around. It seemed that something big had happened, and it was not good to say it outside. Let's go to the Earthworm tribe's home. Yuda waved his hand and told Miruta and the others to train on their own. Then he took Suzuki and Kurachi from the training ground to the Earthworm tribe's home. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.